company telling you no. If you already know what works for you and want real medical freedom, you have to choose the right pharmacy. All Family Pharmacy handles everything, including the doctor's prescription, ships right to your door. So please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/bill, use code BILL10, save 10% on your next order. On this Thursday, the U.S. women's ice hockey team is playing Canada for the Olympic gold medal. The American ladies are a better team and most likely will prevail. The rivalry, however, is partially political, as it will be for the men's final, probably featuring Canada and the USA. The reason is that America and its neighbor to the north are far apart culturally, and it's downright strange. Canada has evolved into a secular country that has accepted woke. Not every province. The ones in the West are more conservative, but the big cities certainly are liberal. You couldn't elect a guy like Justin Trudeau if that were not the case. President Trump believes Canada has taken advantage of the USA in trade as well as defense, and there is some truth to that. So relations between the two countries are at an all-time low. In fact, Canadian travel to the States down 25%. Not good, eh? Mr. Trump would like hockey legend Wayne Gretzky to be the prime minister, but that's not going to happen. Mr. Gretzky is too smart to enter that political arena. Pucks, sure. Schmucks, no. I always have a great time when I visit Canada, and I anticipate the thaw will melt, but not until the Olympics is over. Back in a moment. Homeowners, when is the last time you checked your home title? Scammers are everywhere, and they're targeting your equity. With just a single forged document, they can file at the county. So don't wait until it's too late. Find out if you are already a victim today. Please go to HomeTitleLock.com. Use the promo code BILL to get a free title history report, plus a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shan Scotch with your first alert forecast. We're going to be tracking temperatures back towards the lower 70s as we head towards the afternoon hours. Also going to be issued a first alert weather day as we're tracking a potential for strong to severe storms from 11 a.m. lasting till 6 p.m. Most of that will move back off to the east as we head towards the overnight hours. Temperatures going to look to continue to cool into the weekend, tracking temperatures into the mid 40s and upper 30s. We'll continue to look at drier conditions, and next week a little bit of a rebound ahead. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shan Scotch.
Let's get moving, St. Louis. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on NewsTalkSTL.
You know, there are some people in Festus in particular who are hopping mad about just the idea of a data center coming to their community or just near their community. But here's the thing. It's not limited to just Festus. You're seeing the same thing in Troy, Illinois. You're seeing the same thing in the city, in St. Louis City, and in some other parts of the metro area. So what's the actual truth? We touched on this regarding the city the other day with Kirk Hilsinger from the St. Louis City GOP. But in Jefferson County, it's a different effect on this. And listen, St. Louis County, Franklin County, Warren County, everybody, you need to kind of pay attention to what's happening here. So we're going to kind of drill down and try to get to the truth on that. We're going to have that discussion right around 6:35 with Festus City Councilman Mike Cook. Hey, good morning. Mike Ferguson here. Let's talk about some of the bigger picture stuff. We've had the drawdown in Minneapolis or Minnesota regarding federal law enforcement. They're not leaving the city entirely, but the big surge is over. And one of the aspects of the debate over Homeland Security and ICE and Border Patrol is the use of body cams. Well, for the most part, people agree body cams on law enforcement is a good thing. Democrats are demanding as part of the deal to fund all of the government that this be required with federal law enforcement. I don't know why they're making a point to make this a point of contention, because I don't know that it's really that debatable anymore. But the way we do it matters. And on Wednesday's show, we were visited by Logan Seacrest from our friends at the R Street Institute, and they looked into not just should we use body cameras on law enforcement, but how do we do it? Because you know what? AI and live streaming, that's changing the game. This was interesting. Here's what he had to tell us.
So after what's happened in Minnesota and the surge of the federal immigration enforcement, and part of what the Democrats are demanding is that federal law enforcement, wear body cameras. And that's like one of their points that they're saying this is why we're, objecting to the funding. Well, this shouldn't be that point. So interesting analysis that's posted at the R Street Institute's website. It says making federal body-worn cameras work in practice. And I think that's the key point. And it was written by Jillian Snyder, who's been on the program here, and Logan Seacrest, who joins us right now from the R Street Institute. And I want to make that distinction here. There's the concept and the theory, and then there's the work in practice. What's the difference between those two? And then we can get into the details, Logan, rather.
Yeah, so the disconnect between theory and practice, I think you saw on the streets of Minneapolis. You had this disconnect between policy and funding. The Biden administration directed agencies to adopt body camera policies, and ICE actually put a solid directive on the books. But that directive always had a caveat that the implementation was based on appropriated funding. The current administration then proposed cutting body cameras from $20.5 million and 22 staff down to $5.5 million and 3 staff. This has all happened before, Minneapolis. You had this kind of shrinking body camera program while you had the expansion of ICE over time, and expansion of federal agents. It's quite curious actually that we require body cameras for lots of small localities, small town sheriffs, but not for a lot of our federal agencies, and that's a policy failure. And I think it's one that we're going to be trying to get right here in the coming years.
Yeah, I mean, and the cost of this is a legitimate thing, because you're not even just talking about the actual cameras and the physical aspect of this, the storage of everything that's recorded. That gets pretty expensive as well. So you're talking about, in concept, very easy. Yes, keep the recording on. It's not like your phone, because you got to have, millions of hours saved for a certain amount of time. I mean, so how does that change the budgeting process? I mean, you're talking about some of the cuts on this. Some of that could have been just looking at the budget and say, well, nobody's requested this forever, so maybe we don't need as much.
Right. I mean, I think that's a great point to make here. Every law enforcement leader knows that the hidden cost of body cameras isn't the hardware. It's actually that data management piece you mentioned. There was a recent audit conducted by the Spokane Police Department that gave us some really hard data on this. So to comply with a new state law, city leaders need to find out, basically down to the cent, what to charge for FOIA requests. And researchers found that video redaction requires basically 11 minutes of staff time for every minute of raw footage. And using this figure, they estimated to just redact a single minute of body cam video cost basically about $10. Multiply that across all the internal audits, all the discovery and criminal cases, all the routine quality assurance that you have to do with body camera programs, and that staff and overtime really add up quickly. And despite all that, most of the footage is never even seen or reviewed. It's only reviewed retroactively after a complaint is filed or a case goes to trial, and that represents only a small proportion of footage. So one of the things that we've recommended that can help with this is actually some automated AI applications to review body cam footage.
We are visiting with Logan Seacrest from the R Street Institute. And if you go to their website, which we'll put out in a second here, you can find the analysis, Making Federal Body-Worn Cameras Work in Practice. Okay, so you mentioned, one of the tools that could be incorporated into this, but how do we go from point A, which is right now, to point B, which is an effective use of these cameras? Because every law enforcement group I've talked to, Logan, they have all said, we have tried body cameras, we're on board, we're all for it. So I don't even think there's a big debate in the law enforcement community. They generally want these things. And if there's a cop who says, I don't want that thing on me, we'll start questioning that cop. But for the most part, they're on board. So how do we go from an efficient, effective use of these as the goal and as what's being accomplished from where we are right now?
Yeah, I think, we have basically a decade of state level experience that offers a blueprint here. There's many states now that mandate statewide adoption, and almost every state has adopted regulations around their use. 15 states have actually enacted, facial recognition regulations around body cameras. So I think the answer here is don't just fund the technology, but fund that complete ecosystem. That means hardware, digital evidence management systems, storage infrastructure, training, oversight, and pair the funding mandate with enforceable accountability standards that protect civil liberties. And you have a framework that actually delivers on the promise of body cameras hold.
How does this, if we get to this goal, everything you're outlining right here, Logan, how do we use this to improve? There's the public safety, but there's also the relationships between communities and law enforcement. Now, in some cases like Minnesota and Los Angeles and other places, you just have activists who just are hell-bent on causing conflict and violence. And there's no policy that's going to change all that. But in those areas where there are disconnects between government communities, law enforcement communities, everything you're talking about that's very policy driven, that's very technology driven, how can that be used to actually solve some of these problems in areas that are hit the hardest by violent crime, be it from a federal perspective or a local perspective?
So yeah, I think the public is going to really have to get used to some changes to body cameras here, because body cameras used to be kind of just after action archival tools, but they're going forward. They're going to be real-time intelligence gathering tools. I think the new cameras that law enforcement agencies are using now are connected to the internet. And I think going online fundamentally alters body cameras' mission, kind of from a reactive model to a proactive one. Because the internet connection really provides the ability to stream video rather than just review it after the fact. So this will allow supervisors in a real-time crime center to view a live view from an officer's perspective, and give specialists, hostage negotiators, or even mental health providers, they can provide instant instructions based on what the officer sees. So going forward, I think there's going to be a lot of public debate, I would say, about this changing role of body cameras. And I think our street approaches this kind of from a limited government, evidence-based perspective. We believe in accountable governance, individual liberty, and I think body cameras serve both those. They provide a check on government power, which is one of a core concern for anyone who values limited government. But they also protect officers who need to exercise that government power legitimately. So this isn't really being about pro-police or anti-police. It's about building systems where the public can trust that enforcement is conducted lawfully, and officers can trust that their conduct will be documented fairly. And I think that's a framework that should appeal across the political spectrum. I think that the bipartisan momentum we're seeing on Capitol Hill and elsewhere reflects that.
I think the fact that you're talking about going from an archival to a proactive live, especially when you're talking about streaming sort of approach to this, that's massive. And anytime you've got that kind of change, especially in law enforcement, especially when the possibility of force is used, you also need to consider what could be the unintended consequences of this. You kind of touched on the civil liberties aspect of it. As we move to whatever the next step is on body cameras, what are the safeguards that we need to put into place to keep the technology in its lane to protect those rights and to keep government, and particularly police, in the right place?
So I think that's going to be all about transparency requirements, pairing transparency with human oversight. I don't think you want to regulate specific uses, but you do want to regulate how disclosure happens, how records requests happens, how long to keep body camera footage in those databases. And you must maintain that human decision-making authority. In AI circles, they kind of call this human in the loop policy. I don't think we can necessarily ban AI from being applied to body cameras or try to restrict the development of technology. That just doesn't, over time, that just hasn't worked. But you can like you say, put those guardrails in place that will prevent it from being misused. I think, already in a lot of federal and state regulations around body cameras, there are protections for First Amendment protected activities, such as a protest or something like that. So establishing enforceable accountability mechanisms that, including, footage release timelines and consequences for noncompliance, for activation, that kind of thing. So you want to codify those civil liberty protections. And also, I think the worst outcome here would be, basically funding body cameras and deploying them across the federal government with no kind of statutory framework. Just throwing money at body cameras without policies around training, storage infrastructure, oversight, that's not going to produce an effective program. I think we've got a lot of it. Got a lot of experience at the state level that tells us how to implement body camera programs responsibly. So I think as Congress looks at this going forward, they should take a page from the states.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a test of the concept anymore. The test has been done. It's passed. This is about what's the right way to implement moving forward at this point, because to me, the question as to whether or not body cameras should be part of law enforcement is settled. They should. Now it's a matter of how we do it to kind of wrap things up.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think both like community advocates and law enforcement professionals, they both want body cameras. I think body cameras at this point are pretty much an indispensable tool for just accountability and knowing what's going on with police. But at the same time, they're not a silver bullet. I think early studies or some of the studies have shown that some mixed results on things like use of force rates and the applicability of body camera footage in trial. But what the research also shows is that outcomes depend heavily on implementation. So departments with strong activation policies, real consequences for not activating their body camera, and transparent footage release protocols, they see better results than departments that just kind of hand out cameras and hope for the best. So yeah, I think you're right. The question isn't whether cameras work at this point. It's about how you build a policy infrastructure that makes them effective.
Flashback Friday right around the corner here. Jerome's picked out an interesting theme. No, he did not go woke or anything. He said, in honor of Black History Month, who are the black artists you want to hear for bump music this Flashback Friday? You've got plenty of choices. Man, there was all kinds of great music from so many different people. So rock, R&B, pop, whatever. Send Jerome your Flashback Friday request, but you got to get them in today to have them on the show tomorrow here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Public schools, like public libraries, should be free and open to all. Open enrollment allows parents to choose the school that's the best fit for their children. Maybe another school has a wider curriculum, is bigger or smaller. Maybe a kid is being bullied and would be more comfortable at another school. 75% of parents favor open enrollment. Open enrollment programs now exist in 43 states, and Missouri should join them. Our next-door neighbor, Kansas, has one of the strongest open enrollment policies in the nation. Kansas parents are trusted with choices and options, while Missouri parents must move out of their home to change public schools. And it's a trend. Nationwide, the percentage of students going to their chosen public school has steadily increased. Assigning kids to schools based on their zip code is the old way. Open enrollment is a better way. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
1 in 4 women will have an abortion before the age of 45 in this country. That's the tragedy we must work to stop. Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show here, and that is why Reach Reproductive Health is here, to empower parents to save the lives of innocent children and to see these families come to Christ. And you can be a part of saving and changing lives. So pray and visit outreachforlife.org to learn more, volunteer, and donate. That's outreachforlife.org.
When you're approaching retirement, there are a lot of questions to answer. Do you have enough money to fund your income for life? How should you claim Social Security? And what's your plan for health care and long-term care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL 1019. Don't leave your retirement to chance. It's crucial to understand and address relevant risks before you retire. Our team can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com. Or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Hey, it's Vic and Ken with something important.
Yeah, Missouri's veterans aren't done serving, they're leading.
Join us March 5th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Washington University's historic Holmes Lounge for the next mission, Missouri's Veterans Leading the Way.
Hear from General Frank Grass, former member of the Joint Chiefs, plus veteran leaders from Equifax and Scale AI.
Business leaders, veterans, and community members from across Missouri. This conversation on veteran leadership and mental health matters.
It's free and open to the public, but seating is limited.
Register now at welcomehomeforum.org.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
There's actually been an arrest in the Epstein case.
Pam Bondi made an arrest in the Epstein stuff?
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let's not get over our skis here, Jerome. No, in the UK, it actually happened.
Is it who I think it
probably is? If you're thinking who the now former, the guy who was formerly known as Prince over in the UK. The former Prince Andrew, and I don't know what his name is now because I don't care. But yeah, they actually in the last 12 hours or so they raided his home and he was arrested for official misconduct while in office, meaning while he was a royal. And so it's related to the Epstein case. That's about all the information we have. And by the way, Billy Crow in for Susie today.
How we doing?
Susie is driving back from Washington, D.C. after saving America.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to her tomorrow. Probably a very tired Susie because she's driving back. One, she had to save America in Washington, D.C.
Hard work.
And then she's driving back all the way from D.C. So, Billy, appreciate you pinch hitting here. But this is, again, not something we have seen in the U.S. You've got people on both the right and the left saying, we'll consider this, a success when we start seeing perp walks. Now, granted, this was in the UK. I suspect it was a very dignified, classy, and polite raid and arrest. But nonetheless, the former Prince Andrew has been arrested.
Yeah, I mean, and you know the way these go, like when the first one falls, right, and they start talking, we'll see what happens. That's exciting.
Yeah, it really kind of is because, I mean, by all accounts on this, and Jerome knows this stuff better than anybody, he's researched it more than any of us, but Prince Andrew is just man, I mean, all joking aside, dude's just a gross perv.
Right.
I mean, that's what we know.
It would be a mind-blowing thing to find out that he is not more involved in this than we currently know. I mean, besides Ghislaine, besides Epstein, there's a lot going on with Prince Andrew. And
so he may be like the fulcrum to get to everybody else or get to some others, at least maybe in the UK.
Yeah, when you see you see these like rich, powerful people that are elected officials in the United States and they feel like they're entitled to all this. How much more entitled if you're actual like royalty do you have to feel entitled to that sort of lifestyle? Like I can't even imagine.
Right. So they apparently had 7 or 8 unmarked cars, and they surrounded whatever estate he's bequeathed now that he's been stripped of his royal title. And I understand how all that stuff means because we fought a damn war to not have to worry about that. So I don't worry about it. And so he's in custody. He's arrested. He's taken down. So we'll see where it goes. Yeah. But that's what we want to see more of it here. I mean, we know the crimes were committed. We have the victims, we have documentation, and unfortunately, politics is getting in the way of justice. And it's been getting in the way of justice for multiple administrations of both parties. And it's been getting in the way for years. And at some point, people have had enough and they say, we want to see this. Now, later on, we'll talk about the midterm elections and all that. Is this something that could affect the way people vote? I'm not sure that it will, because we're thinking of a national mood, but talking about local elections.
Right.
And those are two different things a lot of times.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine that this, not specifically even if who is and isn't in the files, but just the way the files have been handled during this entire thing is not going to have some influence when it comes to federal level. But at the same time, I kind of really like Missouri's politicians that we have on our side.
Well,
so
Burleson, Onder, Alford, that they're basically, hey, show the files, let the chips fall where they may. They've taken the right approach. There just aren't enough of them in Congress. Yeah. All right. So a minute or so left here. So Lent started yesterday.
It did.
Yeah. Is anybody here Catholic?
Not anymore.
No, you're okay. So, but you're more familiar.
Yeah,
I've never been Catholic, so I've actually never observed it. And I know there are some non-Catholics who observe Lent. I don't. In the news dump here in just a little bit, there's actually an interesting survey of like 8,000 Americans. Not as many people do observances or give stuff up than what you would think. Because in St. Louis area, there's just a large Catholic population, and some of the non-Catholic population is real Orthodox in some of those things. So you see a lot of people participating who actually aren't even Catholic. So, but it's not as many as you would think. So I'm going to put the question out there, like on social media and everything. Are you giving something up for Lent? And if so, I'm just kind of curious as to what it is, because, the tradition I was raised in, we just never observed it. That was just never a thing for us. What about you?
Yeah, no, we did Lent. And then when I came out of Catholicism, my wife was like really into like all of like the deeper Orthodox stuff, and she wanted to do Lent. So I'm like, you can do that. I've done that in my childhood.
Okay, all right. So let us know, social media, or give me a call. Let me know if you're participating, if you're observing. What are you giving up? I'm just kind of curious about that, because it doesn't have to be just meat,
right?
The world's best athletes, the biggest stage, the thrill of competition. News Talk STL brings you Winter Game updates 4 times every weekday. Get the latest results, medal counts, and top stories from the games. Stay connected to all the action as our athletes go for the gold. Brought to you by Corel Roofing and Best Buy Flooring. Details at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Springtime in St. Louis, and if you hate to paint, do what your neighbor Mr. Rob Miller from Harvesttown Auto Body in St. Peters did. He called Rhino Shield. Rob, what was the thought process for going with Rhino Shield as a business owner?
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted.
Rob, tell everyone how the experience was with Rhino Shield from start to finish.
The process that I liked was when you came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. Our building was really faded. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
Are your neighbors jealous?
I would be if I was them.
Thanks, Rob. Now it's time to call 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Genius.
Don't paint, don't Rhino. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis city streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
If you're worried about losing your health insurance through Medicaid, we have great news for you. New government regulations have expanded the Affordable Care Act. And now you may qualify to get health insurance for you and your family through the Affordable Care Act. Call now to learn if you qualify. We know the healthcare regulations regarding Medicaid, and we've helped thousands of people find quality, affordable health insurance. Plus, all our research is free to you. So call us. With just one call, we'll shop from hundreds of different insurance companies to find you the right affordable health insurance plan. So if you're worried about losing your Medicaid insurance, call right now. Speak with a licensed agent and find how you may qualify for a new health insurance plan.
800-479-0931. 800-479-0931. 800-479-0931. That's 800-479-0931. Paid for by the Health Insurance Hotline.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Britain's former Prince Andrew arrested in the UK. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Police say they launched the investigation after assessing reports about his alleged contact with Jeffrey Epstein. Mountbatten Windsor has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing. President Trump today with representatives of the more than 2 dozen countries making up his newly impaneled Board of Peace.
We have peace in the Middle East. Nobody thought that was possible.
President Trump at a ceremony for his Board of Peace last month. That group's now set to hold its first meeting, governing and rebuilding Gaza, topping the agenda.
Correspondent Ben Thomas says some countries fear the board's work will conflict with that of the UN. And as the Board of Peace convenes, peace is proving elusive in Ukraine. Russia's war on its neighbor continues to rage, and there is speculation the U.S. could find itself in a conflict with Iran over that country's nuclear ambitions. Former South Korean President Yoon sentenced to life in prison for his arbitrary imposition of martial law.
Yoon defended his martial law decree as necessary to stop liberals, whom he described as anti-state forces, from obstructing his agenda with their legislative majority. The decree lasted about 6 hours before being lifted after lawmakers managed to break through a military blockade and voted unanimously to lift the measure.
Correspondent Luke Garrett says Yoon's attorneys are appealing the verdict and the sentence. 8 people killed, 1 missing and presumed dead, the toll taken by the deadliest avalanche in the U.S. in decades. It happened Tuesday near Lake Tahoe. The cascading snow overtook a group of backcountry skiers. The bodies of the victims have yet to be recovered. The weather will not allow for recovery at this point. 6 people were rescued. On Wall Street, the Dow futures down 165 points. NASDAQ futures off 105. More on these stories at townhall.com.
They say timing is everything in the gold and silver markets, and it's true. Dennis Prager here for AmFed Coin and Bullion. Although you can buy at the right time, if you buy the wrong coins, you may not make a profit. When gold was $400 an ounce, many people were talked into buying high-grade old gold and silver collector's coins. Unfortunately, most of the people who bought these so-called semi-numismatic coins, like the $20 St. Gordon's and Liberty Head gold coins, have not broken even on their investment. Incredible, given that gold has risen approximately 525% since then. So while timing is everything, if you buy the wrong coins, the timing simply doesn't matter. Having a dealer who cares about positioning you in the right types of coins or bullion will mean more to your portfolio than anything else. That's why I deal with Nick Rovich and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. Or go to AmericanFederal.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shan Scotch with your first alert forecast. We're going to be tracking temperatures back towards the lower 70s as we head towards the afternoon hours. Also going to be issued a first alert weather day as we're tracking a potential for strong to severe storms from 11 a.m. lasting towards 6 p.m. Most of that will move back off to the east as we head towards the overnight hours. Temperatures going to look to continue to cool into the weekend, tracking temperatures into the mid-40s and upper 30s. We'll continue to look at drier conditions, and next week a little bit of a rebound ahead. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shan Scotch.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Hey, when pests invade your home, you need someone you can trust. It's Jamie Allman here, and at Buckingham Pest Control, they're not just your exterminators, they're your neighbors and friends. A locally owned family business and St. Louis Magazine A-List award winner, providing affordable, quality pest control. Plus, they offer energy-efficient TAP attic insulation, the only insulation that controls pests. BuckinghamPestControl.com. That's BuckinghamPestControl.com.
The boats are back at Missouri's premier boat and fishing show.
February 20th through 22nd at America Center.
Take advantage of screaming deals on hundreds of boats.
Check out wake surf and pontoon boats,
Fishing boats and luxury cruisers.
personal watercraft, and more.
Enjoy non-stop entertainment.
Live stingrays, pro angler demos.
Get ready for fun in the sun
At the St. Louis Boat and Fishing Show.
February 20th through 22nd at America Center.
Go to stlouisboatshows.com for info. Kids are free.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
Today's story behind the story, when one of my early flying lessons almost turned into a disaster.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
Big guy, one of the biggest in the world.
Susie Moore.
Do you think he's ready?
He's not ready.
Get up, St. Louis.
I have a feeling that by the end of this evening, I'm going to be blamed for everything.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, Boeing brings a key part of their business back to St. Louis. This is actually a really big deal. The Trump administration is considering cutting WashU off from a federal tuition program. Could be millions of dollars at stake. And they really probably brought this on themselves. And the U.S. is chasing Olympic gold in hockey, and they're chasing Olympic gold 2 times over. All right, I'm Mike. We've got Jerome here. Billy Crow in for Susie Moore today. Let's go ahead and get started with a news dump.
The Morning News Dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks. The Morning News Dump.
Okay, this is pretty big news here. Boeing is moving its defense, space, and security operations back to St. Louis, where they were for a long time, but those operations have been headquartered in Arlington, Virginia since 2017. In addition to the production of military aircraft and munitions, Boeing spends around $750 million with hundreds of local contractors each year right here in the St. Louis area, the general overall region, both sides of the river. Secretary Pete Hegseth visited the company headquarters on Wednesday. Governor Keogh was there to greet him, and of course he spoke with obviously the leadership, and he spoke with a lot of the membership as far as the production folks and everything. But you're talking over 18,000 employees, pretty high-paid employees, in 3 different locations on both sides of the river, if you include the Illinois side there.
And that's just the employees that work for Boeing.
Right,
You know, like
right.
I'm in the trades, right? So we've got contractors out there doing work all the time, all hours of the day, remodeling and doing things like that. That is a huge investment for our region.
Well, and I saw a couple reports to that end, Billy, is that you've got the 18,000 Boeing workers. So these are people who get their paycheck from Boeing.
Right.
And then you've got, when you look at all the contractors, and there's over 300 contractors, you're looking at about 35,000 other jobs that are involved with Boeing.
Yeah. When I worked at one of the mechanical contractors that's out there, like there wasn't a day that went by that I didn't do 4 to 6 hours of work just for a Boeing project. You know, there's a lot of work out there. Interesting though, I was checking out Facebook where they were posting pictures of this event that happened yesterday, and they're like, oh, it's our Missouri delegation. You know who I didn't see in that picture?
Who would that be?
Ann Wagner.
Oh, really?
Really?
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I was like, huh.
I thought you were going to say Wesley.
No,
yeah.
No, Ann Wagner was not in there. That was surprising to me.
Oh, that is, because
they had the big thing of all of them, and there was Ann Wagner wasn't there.
You know, that's interesting, because I did see the picture with Bob and with Mark and with
Jason Smith.
Jason.
Was there?
Was Eric there?
I didn't see him either, but
Eric
I wasn't.
Maynard. Yeah, but no, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. So
I was surprised, because I feel like she's like in everything.
And that's I guess that's technically in Wesley Bell's district.
Yeah,
but Ann's
her voters work there.
Oh yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah, all right, that's interesting there. Okay, Pentagon says WashU is among the universities that could be cut from a tuition assistance program. This is a very specific tuition assistance program. 33 schools are generally, the entire list is 33 universities around the country, including WashU. That includes the majority of the Ivy League universities. Program is for active duty military personnel, and the proposed cuts target universities that the Trump administration says demonstrate, using their words, pervasive institutional bias and that undermine the mission of the military. Basically, if they've deemed the universities hostile to essentially America or the Trump administration, that they are looking at 33 universities in particular to cut this program, and WashU is on the list.
You know, I think we were talking about this a little earlier. Like, could you imagine if the shoe was on the other foot and the Democratic Party did that with, I don't know, pick your university, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, because like some universities, like for instance, you look at Hillsdale, they don't take any federal money to start with, just so they can avoid this kind of stuff.
That's the answer right there, right?
Yeah. And then, but you look at some of the other more conservative ones out there. In this case here, it's like people are mad, saying you're targeting because they disagree with you. Well, maybe, maybe not. But the reality is that WashU has put themselves in the position to be the target because they think they're more important than they really are and more influential than they really are. So they kind of put themselves in this position.
Yeah, I mean, their endowments, all these Ivy Leagues, they have huge endowments. Yeah. Why, like, they shouldn't qualify for government assistance anyway.
I agree. Yeah, billions with a B, billions of dollars in endowments. 100%. Yep. All right, the Vatican announced on Tuesday that it will not be accepting President Trump's invitation to join his Board of Peace. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt reacts to that announcement.
I don't think that peace should be partisan or political or controversial. And of course, the administration wants all those who were invited to join the Board of Peace to join.
The Vatican says the United Nations should handle global crisis situations, which is one of the reasons the Vatican probably should not be your primary source for geopolitical issues. Oh, my goodness. All right. Let's see what else we got going on here. Oh, this is interesting here. The Make America Healthy Again movement is now setting its sights, or kind of focusing its sights on additives and overprocessed foods. And when you're talking about school lunches here, White House, okay, I'll make sure I get this guy's title right. White House Senior Make America Healthy Again Advisor. That's a job description. So his business card's like a 4x6 just to fit everything on there. White House Senior Make America Healthy Again Advisor Callie Means was on Fox's Jesse Waters Primetime talking about those efforts that are coming out of the administration. And he actually, I'm not an RFK Jr. guy, but they are making a good point about this.
We are taking a sledgehammer to school lunch regulations. So I've got a metric for you. 45 million meals a day served to kids. 70% of the food right now is ultra-processed. That is going to be real food made by American farmers.
And this, of course, comes as HHS and Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, who's been on this show, they are working to restrict unhealthy fake foods from things like SNAP benefits. And I'm on board with that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's exactly right. No matter what it is, if you're trying to give people a cleaner option for eating. I mean, we were talking about my weight loss. Right. Eating cleaner, like, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, because it's been a while since I'd seen you in person. I walked in, and the first thing I said is, dude, where's the rest of you?
Yeah.
You've lost some serious weight.
Yeah, we're trying. We're trying.
There. Yeah, congratulations on that. All right, our long national nightmare is over now. An Illinois judge puts one of the burning questions of our day to rest. Yes, we can still call them boneless wings.
But they're not wings.
I know, but we can still call them that. That's the ruling. It's an official 10-page ruling in U.S. court in Illinois.
You know, this is where it all started, right here. You know what I'm saying? Next thing you know, you had kids identifying themselves as dogs. And,
that's right.
Oh, geez.
So here's what's going on. U.S. District Judge John Tharp ruled in favor of Buffalo Wild Wings in a lawsuit brought by a man who claims the company violated the Illinois Consumer Fraud Act. Eamon Halem argued that calling the nuggets of meat boneless wings should mean the restaurant serves deboned wings. And the judge basically said, and it was kind of a funny ruling because he had all these puns that were written.
Yeah, I bet.
He basically argued that everybody knows that boneless wings are not actual wings. They're allowed to call them boneless wings.
But buffalo wings are, in fact, made of buffalo, right?
Okay. Oh. I need to talk to you about something.
Oh, no.
Next break. Just tell you about this. Okay. I want to, let's see here. We're going to talk about this a little more depth here in just a bit. There's a kind of the hissy fit that Stephen Colbert is throwing right now. You know, you've seen this, right? And so the late night talk show host, Stephen Colbert, bashing the FCC and his own network, CBS, of course, they're running him out on a rail here, saying the government agency pressured the network to kill his interview with Texas State Representative James Tallarico, who's running for the U.S. Senate, over concerns that it would violate the so-called equal time rule. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr was on the Ingram angle and says the FCC and he weren't involved.
This was Democrat on Democrat violence. CBS was very clear that Colbert could run the interview that he wanted with that political candidate. They just said you may have to comply with equal time.
Okay, so, Colbert made a big deal about, they wouldn't let us air it. You have to go to YouTube and all that kind of stuff. A little bit later, I think at 7 o'clock, I got some thoughts on this. But part of this, Billy, is Stephen Colbert trying to declare how important he is and the rest of the world going, really?
Yeah, I mean, there's legitimacy there or not, like so we're talking about later, but like there's this point of like crying wolf. Eventually people aren't going to listen to you anymore.
Yeah, so I'm going to get in that just a little bit here. This is interesting. According to a new survey, only 14% of Americans give up something for Lent.
Yeah.
Now, in St. Louis, I think that number is much higher, but across the country, 14%. 70% affirmatively said they do not give up anything, and the rest are not sure whether they're going to or not as the Lenten season begins. The most likely to give something up for the season, this is interesting to me, Gen Z.
Oh.
That surprises me. The least likely to give up something for Lent, Boomers and Gen X.
Yeah, that actually, that tracks, right? Because I think in the religious circles, you see like the younger generations trying to come back to those like orthodoxies. Like you see like a boom in Catholicism by the younger generation because they're looking for traditions, whereas like the boomers were like, screw your traditions.
We've been there. We've done that. Yeah, that's interesting.
I do what I want.
Yeah, basically. All right, the U.S. men's hockey team gets forced into overtime at the last minute when Sweden scores with 90 seconds left in regulation. That tied the game at 1 goal apiece, and then this happened.
We played 3.5 minutes in overtime. Quinn Hughes shoots. He scores! He scores! Quinn Hughes in overtime wins it, and the United States will move on and face Slovakia in the semis.
All right, final score there, United States 2, Sweden 1. The U.S. women's hockey team plays Canada today. That is a gold medal game.
That's going to be one for the ages right there. It's two great teams. You played that clip. That's the most haunting sound in hockey is that clank of the post. Because it's either, you just missed or you just made it, man.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I have to tell my kids that I'm a rock star now.
On NewsTalkSTL.
NewsTalkSTL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 2 times every weekend on NewsTalkSTL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. You could also reach Doug at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Hey, Jamie Allman here. When your car needs attention, trust who I trust. Benchmark Complete Auto in Valley Park. 25 years as a family-owned and operated company, Benchmark is your Napa Auto Care Center for nearly every maintenance and repair, using the latest technology and top-quality parts. Need help with the bill? Well, ask about Napa's Easy Pay financing. Mention Jamie Allman and NewsTalkSTL and get 10% off. BenchmarkAutorepair.com, BenchmarkAutorepair.com.
If you turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. That's 800-439-7851.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Good morning, Missouri. It's your boy Joe Pags. I'll talk to you tonight at 10. But right now, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I had one of those things happen with this song. I guess it was last week. That kind of hits you in the chest. So I'm driving wherever, and I'm just kind of scrolling through. I've got Sirius XM in my vehicle, so I can go back and forth between like us and then whatever. And I was on I think it was the classic vinyl channel, and this song came up. And I'm like, wait, what? That station's for old stuff.
Uh-oh.
But you know what to be considered like what they don't use the term oldies anymore, but to be considered classic, you know what the threshold generally is. 25 years old.
Oh.
That's not right.
Yeah.
So technically Slipknot is a oldies
yeah.
now. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Slipknot and Limp Bizkit
Right.
are part of the oldies.
because I'm used to going on to that, like that when I listen to that channel, I'm used to hearing like Creedence Clearwater Revival, old school Fleetwood Mac, stuff like that. And then I hear Epic from Faith No More, and I'm like, wait, what's going on here? That would mean that I'm old, and that's not right.
Right. No, that's when you check, like, am I in the DeLorean right now? Did I just time travel?
Because that's what was funny is I used to work at a radio group. We call them clusters in the business where there's a bunch of, it's like corporate radio and stuff. And one of them was an oldies station. But what they learned is that Gen X, which would be me,
right?
And they surveyed, and that Gen X hates the term oldies. So you've noticed they've retired that. I don't think there are any stations that are considered oldies anymore.
No.
They don't even say classic rock that much anymore because my generation is so immature and narcissistic because we don't want to admit that we're old.
Right.
I mean, we kind of are. I mean, if you think about it, you don't have to agree that fast.
But I think the term classic is better than oldies, right? Like, it's old, but it's like original. It's the real deal. Like, it's what everybody loves.
It should be like well-seasoned rock.
Yeah.
Or something.
Well, the hipsters affectionately call you guys vintage, right? Is
vintage.
That
there we go.
And so but that was the actual term to be on an oldies station is that the song had to be at least 25 years old.
Jeez.
And that was, because you think about it, the 80s were 40 plus years ago.
So I'm thinking about this, right? I remember riding around with my grandma on the back of her Lincoln Town Car and her listening to the Righteous Brothers.
Yeah.
Thinking about how far the Righteous Brothers were from us at that point versus like AC/DC is from us now. And I'm like, holy crap.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty scary. At some point, you're drawing comparisons to when the pyramids are built. And
right,
it's not good at all. All right, 6:22 right now. Okay, we had a question on social media. Let me just go ahead and answer it up front. Was it Scooter that asked that? Hey, J.B. Pritzker gave his State of the State address yesterday afternoon. Am I going to have much on it today? I'm not, Scooter, and for everybody who's in Illinois as well, the bottom line is the logistics just didn't work out. I had other things I had to be doing in the afternoon. I got to get caught up on it. I know that I will, but I just did not have time to edit the audio and put it up there. So that's not for ignoring it, because you know that I would love to comment on there because they're going to disagree with pretty much everything J.B. Pritzker has to say. But it's a fair question, so let me put that out there, and the answer is probably a disappointing no, but just want to put that out there because it is a fair question. All right, let me follow up. We talked about this in the news dump. So Wash U is now on a hit list by the Trump administration. And the good news for them is that they're on a list that includes most of the Ivy League schools. So they feel really good about that. The bad news for them is that list is of the schools who are on the short list to lose a lot of funding. And so what specifically we're talking about, Jefferson County Councilman Billy Crow in for Susie Moore today, is that there's a program that's tuition assistance for active duty military personnel, both undergrad and graduate. And basically the Trump administration has said, we're going to pick out some of the most anti-Trump, anti-military, far left biased universities out there and ask the question, why are we giving them money? Especially if, and Pete Hegseth has argued and President Trump has argued that it undermines the mission of the U.S. military. And so the schools in question, generally speaking, have rejected the education compact, like Wash U rejected the Trump administration's education compact, which was back in like September, October of last year, something like that, and said, no, we're not going to agree to all of your terms of curriculum and that sort of stuff. Basically, we want to have academic freedom, which that's a thing. It really is.
Right.
You definitely want that. But basically, we want to run wild and still claim that we have a right to everybody else's money to do it. There's the rub.
Yep, that's the rub right there. When it's tax dollars, and it's it's this GI Bill level kind of thing where it's like these are active or former military folks that want to have an education. Like you can go to
these are all active duty.
Right,
This one's specifically for active duty. Yeah.
So I mean that's even a bigger rub, right? Because they are active. It's not just they're out of the service, going on their daily lives. But yeah, if it's not government dollars, you can do whatever you want. But once it's out of my pocket, like I don't know. It's rough.
And that there's got to be a balancing act somewhere on that, because I don't want the federal government top down vetting everything that's taught in a classroom at the university level, especially in a private university level. But at some point you can go too far, and taxpayers have a right to go, like you just said, Billy, taxpayers have a right to say, you can teach your left-wing nonsense. You want to be all left-wing activism. You want to be anti-American. That's your right to do it. But I don't have a responsibility to pay for it.
Right.
And this is one area where they could probably just cut the program and not have to worry so much about an activist judge saying, you can't, because these military personnel can then go to UMSL. They can go to
Mizzou.
They can go to Mizzou. They can go to SIUE. They can go to Lindenwood. They can go to SLU. Not the SLU is going to be a lot better, but they can go to any of these others and take those dollars and not be affected personally by it.
Or here's a novel concept. Take education, even at that level, out of the federal government.
I would love that.
I don't know. Call me crazy.
I would love that. But I think this is the administration making a point that I think needs to be made.
Sure. Yeah, there is the underlying point that does need to be made of the fact that, like, if you're going to hate us, you don't get our money.
Right. You can hate us for free.
That's right.
To quote Senator John Kennedy. Why are we? And he talked about other countries, like, why are we paying them when they hate us? They can hate us for free. And that's the thing with WashU. And WashU, of course, made a big deal about announcing that if your household income's under a certain amount, then they've got tuition free. Well, they can afford all of that. But you're going to bill the taxpayers for the active duty military personnel whose households are probably still under that threshold.
And like these aren't cheap schools, right? Like these are Ivy League versus, like, again, going to Mizzou, going to UMSL, right? Like there's still a fiduciary responsibility there for the government of saying, like, why do you have to go to the most expensive one, you know?
And WashU ain't what it used to be.
No.
And the Ivy Leagues are not what they used to be. They're not as prestigious as they used to be. I know
they're cattle stamps.
Yeah, here in the region, the elites in St. Louis like to think of WashU as like, boy, this is our Ivy League. It is so prestigious, and they do some solid medical research. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good medical research that's done here, but the bottom line is that they have become just like everybody else. And just because WashU rejects most of their applicants, they're not as prestigious as they used to be. And it's really an overpriced degree. An employer is going to have just as solid of a bet hiring somebody out of UMSL or Lindenwood or SIU as they would with Washington University, unless you're talking about one of those incredibly specialized, medical research things.
Yeah.
Now, counterpoint, though. So universities are supposed to be independent of government, but government also is primarily responsible, or not primarily, but one of the responsibilities is to fund research, and universities are often the ones that have the most capabilities to actually get good research going.
Right.
So despite hating on a political entity, does it not still make sense to keep the funding going to the universities?
The format is better than just the government doing all the research, which the government does. I mean, there's the Department of Everything that is stunning, and there are times where they do that. There's probably more, I think it's a good balance to fund it to where it's run privately more efficiently, but still has some accountability. Now, we've seen a lot of problems. Look at the COVID nonsense and all the lies and everything that came through all of that. But when you get outside of that R1, what they call R1, Research 1 universities, everything else is just the academic side, teaching the students.
Right.
So there's the research side of universities that includes students, but there are researchers who never see a classroom.
Well, and to go a little further with that, I mean, talking about research and stuff like that, I mean, when you talk about like gender studies and stuff like that, they're doing their research, right? So like, do we get any of this leftist nonsense if the government's not subsidizing it? Because you need to go for a degree that can get you a job that can pay the bills versus being a perpetual student and professor, right? A philosopher for life, you know?
Right. And here's the thing with the idea, and I think you bring up an interesting question. They're supposed to be independent. We don't want the government running. They're independent. They are as independent. When the government funds the majority of this, or when the government funds a significant amount of it, they are as independent as your teenager is who depends on your allowance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's an independent teenager, but they're dependent on your allowance. So they've got the strings being pulled.
Right. No, that's exactly right. That's perfect.
You know, a lot of research does go into technology, such as our amazing free NewsTalkSTL app and our live stream where you can see that Billy Crow is like even taller than I am somehow. He's like 8 feet tall, chiseled abs, great looking guy. You should check out the stream. But if you're using either one of those, one, thank you. And if you're not, shame on you. But they also require data centers. Now, whether we realize it or not, every day we're using data centers. A lot of people don't want them in our areas, though. Let's talk about that at 6:35.
But it makes no difference 'cause they're not your
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
His weight is listed 215.
He looks good, and he looks hard.
On Newstalk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shan Scotch with your first alert forecast. We're going to be tracking temperatures back towards the lower 70s as we head towards the afternoon hours. Also going to be issued a first alert weather day as we're tracking a potential for strong to severe storms from 11 a.m. lasting towards 6 p.m. Most of that will move back off to the east as we head towards the overnight hours. Temperatures going to look to continue to cool into the weekend, tracking temperatures into the mid 40s and upper 30s. We'll continue to look at drier conditions, and next week a little bit of a rebound ahead. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shan Scott.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
Hi, this is Mark Harder with RE/MAX Results, the region's largest RE/MAX real estate brokerage. It is cold outside, but the real estate market is hot. This is a great time to buy or sell a home. Interest rates are also declining, which gives you more buying power. Someday is not a day on the calendar, but today is. Call me at 314-852-8933 for a free custom home buying plan. 314-852-8933.
This year, America turns 250, and Newstalk STL is celebrating our nation's semi-quincentennial all year long. Newstalk STL, #1 for live and local Soros-free talk, with proud supporters of our 250th birthday celebration, Whistle Pig Outdoors, and Alamo Military Collectibles. 250 years strong, and we're just getting started. 1019 and 94.1 Newstalk STL. If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Just a convenience on the phone. Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the new app.
And listen anytime.
Everywhere.
Anywhere.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, people are fired up about data centers. We're seeing this all over the region, all over the region. Now, people get fired up whether they know all the facts or not, you know. And we, for instance, covered this in the news. Was it last week? I think it was, where there was a petition in Festus to try to force the question of whether or not to allow a data center on the ballot. And the mayor in Festus, and by the way, to his credit, because it's not easy to do, to say the law actually doesn't require us to put this on the ballot. This is the purview of the city council and the mayor, which that actually takes some guts to say to people who gathered all these signatures that, hey, message received, let's talk, but we don't actually have to put it on the ballot. We were elected, we'll make the decisions. And so you give credit where credit's due, whether you agree or disagree. You don't get a lot of that. And I don't know, I've never met the mayor, I don't know him, but I just thought that was interesting, having been in elected office. But you look at Troy, Illinois, there was a big turnout opposing data centers. Granite City on the Illinois side, a big turnout against data centers. We've got the debate in the city, St. Louis City, over data centers as well. Nobody wants a data center. And if you want to ask them why, then they're immediately going to go to their phone and look it up on the internet and use a data center somewhere to come up with the thing. So here's the thing. In Jeffco, Billy Crow, Jeffco County Councilman, my understanding is that there's not even an actual proposal. Nobody is asking to build one. The city, and I guess by default, all the layers of government are saying, should we be prepared to allow for one? Because you got to deal with infrastructure, you got to deal with all that kind of stuff as well. So it's just should we even be looking at the possibility of this in the future?
Yeah, from what I'm on the county council, and then I've got some friends on the Festus City Council, and those are
we're about to talk.
We're about to talk to them, and so we're two different entities, but we know that there are spots that are good for data centers because of what they need, their power sources, right? And so we know that that's something they might be looking at. So we're trying to get ahead of it and just say, hey, what can we do to make sure to keep our people safe?
Okay, so Festus City Councilman Mike Cook joins us right now. Mike, appreciate you being on the program here. So let me start with what's the actual situation. We're talking about an annexed part of land that is being looked at to say that might be a good spot. Well, then, a lot of people get worked up and they come in and say, not in my backyard, essentially. But there's no actual proposal. Is this just a matter of planning for what could be, or is there something in the works that that is in the pipeline to some degree?
So there is something in the pipeline because we know there's a developer. We know there's interest. There has been no plan submitted. There's very little data that we can actually look at right now to determine if it's a good development or bad development. But the annexation was done. It's a voluntary annexation by the property owners. So that is not a hostile annexation at all. So there is some movement, but there's nothing concrete yet.
And this is over by what, CC Highway?
It is Highway 67 and Highway CC it's called, yes, where they're doing the construction for the Highway 55, 67 overchain there in southern Jefferson County.
Now, Mike, Billy Crow here. Obviously, you know my voice, but you deal with a lot of things, and you're helping us on the county side because you also do work for Jefferson County in the water, like stormwater and wastewater, right?
I do.
So you see a lot of the different sides of this. When you have constituents come up to you that are for or against it, what even on the for side, what are the general vibes you are getting from your constituents? Because there's so much hype on social media, right? There's so much hype in the news, but the real people that are coming up to you and calling you, what are their real opinions?
So I would say this is a true split down the middle topic. You got those who are for it because they want the economic growth, the jobs, and the impact it brings to a city. Because if it's done correctly and structured correctly, this is what I would call city generational revenue that can change an entire forecast of a city for years to come. Then on the other side, you have those who oppose it because they're worried about water consumption, electrical consumption, discharge of any, byproducts, noise, being that close possibly to a data center. But there's a lot of, I would call, unknowns on both sides that there's not a lot of clear information out there yet. So unfortunately on social media, it's easy to find negative stories because it's algorithm based and it's shared so much faster when it's negative. You find something that's negative and it gets shared 10 times faster than something positive. And unfortunately that can become reality if you don't get out in front of it, answer questions, and do a little better job controlling the narrative.
We're visiting with Festus City Councilman Mike Cook. That's the voice you're hearing right now. Okay, so let's talk about those objections. And by the way, for the people who are doing the petition and everything, showing up at the meeting of City Hall and the City Council, that's what you're supposed to do when you've got questions or, have those conversations in that format. That's what you're supposed to do. Yep. So whether I decide they're right or wrong is irrelevant. That's what you're supposed to do, is have those conversations in that setting here. So let's talk about the things, and what you just described, Mike, is what we've heard in Troy, is what we've heard in Granite, is what we've heard in the city. It's what we're hearing to some degree in Warrenton. It's what we're hearing all over the region, probably all over the country, is that they say, well, are we going to end up subsidizing the power, because these things take a massive amount of power. They do often take a lot of water as a coolant system, essentially a radiator system as well. And then at times there is noise that's generated just to deal with the power grid, or the power to make it all run, because we're talking about massive amounts of information that are processed in these things. So let's go through those objections, because they're not unreasonable to ask questions about them, but what's the actual truth as far as what's in the plans that you know of?
So currently right now we don't have a formal submission. So there's been very little communication with the developer. I think they're trying to, solidify their user on their end. So a lot of this is still going to be assumption based, but the difference between maybe a county and a city, and here would be a good prime example. The city of Festus, we pull our water from the Mississippi, and our water, since it comes to Mississippi, is based upon, our volume of storage capabilities that we have at our water plant. So therefore, you're not in the aquifer. So that's step one right there. To me, it's a huge plus, because the city is selling the water. If the city has the capacity to sell the water, then we're not putting any additional strains on the entire system. And the second thing would be electricity. We already have the major transmission lines right there. You're already by Highway 67, so it kind of fits the corridor pretty good right there. Amber and UE already came out with Senate Bill 4. The PSC already have tariffs on these what's called super capacity users. So those are two pluses right there, additional, that also offer some protection to our residents. So those are usually the main ones. The noise, for example. We now have decimal requirements. If you're at the boundary limits of a property, you can't be higher than 60 decimal limits. However, though, when you begin negotiations with the user, you can ask for more. These are just baseline requirements. Therefore, like one example I would like to see is split. So at night, I want the decimal levels down to 0.45. In the daytime during operation, 0.60 would be satisfactory. So those are things you can ask for to even offer more protection to your residents, those who are concerned.
Hey, Mike, just quick follow up on that, on the noise side and all of that. If there is a data center that goes into this particular location, how far is that from the nearest residential area?
So we have 300-foot setbacks. However, though, as a council, we're going to ask for even larger setbacks. So right now, based upon initial conversations internally within the council, we're looking at a minimum of 900 to 1,000 feet setbacks to a data center, to a nearby home.
So you talk about you have the noise ordinances, right? And I think one of the big things that I've heard on the county side is, well, how is that how are you going to enforce that? How are you going to make sure, like, who's going to be out there all the time checking to make sure it doesn't get loud? What kind of enforcement mechanisms does your ordinance have?
So we require monitoring for the first 2 years, and that would be acoustic meters on site done by our consultant engineering firm. So we're not going to use a developer as consulting engineers. That everything will be done through the city. So we'll have environmental consulting engineers, water consultants, we'll have sanitary sewer consultants, acoustic engineering. So there'll be measurable devices on there that would pick this up. And if it becomes a situation where let's say the development does become in violation, then we have mechanisms immediately. It requires immediate mitigation to get back in compliance. If not, then we could even start the fine process, or where a city is faster at is with no water, no service. We have the right to disconnect utilities as a city, water and sewer.
So this is, if I remember right, yours is zoned industrial. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay, so how does the regulations on this and the feedback you're getting compared to like other industrial uses that this land could be used for? Because I think one of the points I've been thinking of is looking at some regulations for data centers at other parts. Like would you have these regulations on a cement plant that would also go in an industrial park? Would you have them on a junkyard that would also go in an industrial park? Some of these seems like we're making a boogeyman out of something that might actually be cleaner than a lead smelter or a cement plant that would go in those locations.
That's a very good point. And in fairness, you're correct. We have more regulations on data centers than we do a scrapyard. That we do have one in town that has houses within a 250 feet proximity. So that's a very fair point. Data centers are heavily regulated, but here's something I learned throughout my travels and learning about data centers and being in the environmental industry. They don't want you to know they're there. They don't want to be a bad neighbor. So we always got to keep that in our mind as well.
All right, we're visiting with Festus City Councilman Mike Cook. Mike, I just got a couple minutes left here. So let's talk about the conversation that's happening. You got the petition, and people may be petitioning, based on fears that are unjustified. But the fact of the matter is that this is a big change. Now, it's the future. It's the way it is. As things become more digital, you got to have these data centers somewhere. So talk about the city's approach to having the conversations with the people, your constituents, who have concerns, or they don't know, or they're in opposition. But how do you have those conversations to where you're going to have to make a tough decision one way or the other, and in the meantime you want people to be comfortable with that decision even if they don't like the outcome of it? So how do we build on this when you've got something that's controversial?
So public outreach, I've been meeting with a lot of constituents myself and doing small groups, meeting with people, answering emails. The other thing is, in our code, we're required to have an open house. Once we get a formal submission, then the entire residents of the city of Festus get to look at this submission, ask questions, talk, engage with us. And then here's the other part that I've been telling our citizens. I've been on the council 10 years. In 10 years, have the city done anything to harm your property values and, more importantly, harm our residents? And that's always what I'm defaulting to. We live in the community. This data center, if it comes in, is less than a mile from me. It's 2 football fields away from my in-laws. So it has a direct impact on my life as well. So that's the primary message we're trying to get out to our residents. We understand there's concern. The unknown does have concerns. But it's also, the social media is a dangerous tool, as we're learning. Misinformation and bad information can spread so quickly. And just take a deep breath, talk to us. First of all, let's see the development plans. If they're not good development plans, the council's not going to vote for it. We live in the community. It's not like we live in Washington, D.C., and we represent you on a representative basis. We're right here in the community, right next door to you. So that's the big message I would advise others, and to continue to tell our residents, just engage with us, let's see it, then let's have a conversation.
Okay, to be just a point of clarification, you like your in-laws, okay, right?
I do.
Okay. Just
yeah.
to check.
Well, I think, Mike, you just made the best point against data centers right there, which was social media. So I'm not sure which side you're on anymore. Not that there is a side, because it's all about making sure that we care about the people in the community. But so again, the petition is for people to vote on this. Again, how do you feel like, as far as like a level of property rights? I mean, the having a plebiscite over whether somebody can develop something on their property, just on a property rights issue, Mike, if I wanted to build a shed in my backyard, should the entire city be able to vote whether I can or not?
Well, and that's another good point. Where do we draw the line? And to back up, we're a Class 3 city under Charter 77. Therefore, it makes it almost impossible to allow residents to vote on it, because there's a mechanism of steps. It's not like we can snap our finger and put it on the ballot. So the city council is not ignoring our residents who did the petition, but the petition doesn't operate or fall under our jurisdiction as a city. Therefore, we can't allow people to vote on it. However, though, you bring up a good point. What happens if we get a Costco that comes in? And then somebody says, I don't want that. That's the big question. Where do you draw the line? Right. Where do you draw the line on people voting on things? And that's a good point. What if you want to do something to your private property? Now, does your neighbors get a say in it if it meets the zoning requirements and it meets the city code? That's the tough one. Where do you draw the line?
All right. Mike Cook from the Festus City Council. What's next in the process? We're a little bit over time, but what's next in the process? Is it just a matter of waiting on the developer to submit plans in the meantime?
Yes.
Okay.
From what I'm understanding, we're getting closer. I know the negotiations are going on, but yes, the next step would be a submission, and then we would have an open house, public view. Then we would finalize a user agreement with a community benefit agreement, and then we would issue, the process of permits would be issued then.
All right, Mike, thanks. Appreciate the update, man.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
All right, guys. Stephen Colbert is big mad. He's big mad. Big mad for a little guy. He says he's being censored, so we're going to give you the government's response in the news dump. That's at 6:50. And then at 7:05, I want to go into a little more depth on this because it's actually a bigger question, believe it or not, even bigger than Stephen Colbert.
Whoa.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Not mumbling, you meatheads. Rumbling, rumbling.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
Now whip it.
I think we should be able to have a civil conversation.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
News Talk STL.
Hey, Colombo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 Lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
Your business moves fast. PRI Global keeps it moving smarter for almost 30 years, delivering top tech talent to help companies grow stronger, custom applications, simplifying your operations, securing your data, modernizing your business from the cloud up. And with Prismatic, you're going to get real-time insights, automated workflows, people, process, platform. PRI Global delivers all three. PRIGlobal.com.
Craving the freshest in town? Anthony's Produce is your daily destination for nature's finest. Browse our rainbow of quality fruits and vegetables. Always fresh, always delicious. Hosting an event? Let us create stunning fruit bouquets and vegetable trays, or treat someone special to our chocolate-covered pineapple. We proudly stock hundreds of locally made products. And yes, we've even got seasoned firewood for those cozy evenings, available for pickup or delivery. Anthony's Produce.
701 Juggerman Road in St. Peters. Call 636-936-0496 or order online at anthonysproduce.com.
Ever feel like just a number in a waiting room? Hi, I'm Shannon Tribue, Director of Operations with Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Navigating the medical system can be a maze of stress. I'm your personal guide at Body of Health. I handle the messy parts of medical care, the logistics and complex coordination, both in and outside our walls, so you and Dr. Tobler, that's my dad, can focus on what matters most, your health. At Body of Health, you're not just a patient. You're part of the family, because that's healthcare the way it ought to be. To learn more, schedule a discovery call at bodyofhealth.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at Stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, Chris Arp from the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show. Make sure that you're listening to our show this afternoon from 4 to 6. Now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
All right, Boeing is bringing a key part of their business back to St. Louis. We're talking the actual headquarters of it back here. U.S. is chasing Olympic gold in hockey, and they're doing it 2 times. They want gold medals. They want dose of those babies.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to find out pretty quick here. All right, it is 6:52. Jeffco County Councilman Billy Crow. You can hear him every weekend on Jeffco Patriot Radio. He's filling in for Susie today, who's on the way back from Washington, D.C. after saving America.
Yeah.
There it is. 6:52. Let's go and do another news dump, guys.
The morning news dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks. The morning news dump.
No, Jerome, you cannot punch the computer. It does not have feelings.
Is this why we're getting these data centers now so the buttons will work? I mean, come on.
All right. Boeing is moving its defense, space, and security operations back to St. Louis, at least the leadership of it. Those operations have been headquartered in Arlington, Virginia since 2017. Now, in addition to the production of a military aircraft line and munitions, Boeing spends around $750 million with hundreds of local contractors each year right here in the region. Secretary Pete Hegseth visited the company headquarters on Wednesday, meeting with Boeing executives, meeting with workers, meeting with Missouri's congressional delegation. A decision like this, it seems to me, Billy, is probably something that is months, if not years, in the works. So there's a lot of people pointing out, oh, Virginia just elected a complete left-winger, and they've gone fall off the charts left, and now Boeing is coming back to St. Louis. Maybe that's the icing on the cake, but I would be a little surprised if Boeing went, oh, I don't like the new governor. We're pulling everything out after 10 years there. I don't think that actually happens.
That doesn't make sense.
No. But anyway, that's a big boon for St. Louis, for the entire region. Yeah, the governor was there to greet the secretary once he got off the plane there. All right, Caroline Leavitt being asked about the Pope's declining of the invitation to join President Trump's Board of Peace in Gaza. Here's what she had to say.
I don't think that peace should be partisan or political or controversial. And of course, the administration wants all those who were invited to join the Board of Peace to join.
And the Pope said that he thinks that the international peace stuff should go through the UN.
Well, the UN's never going to be able to create peace because they don't have weapons.
No. And we could do an entire week's of shows on the problems with the UN and why I think we have. Don't get me started on the UN. Let's just say I'm not a fan.
No.
I'm not a fan in the least bit whatsoever. All right. An Illinois judge puts one of the burning questions of our day to rest. Yes, you can still call them boneless wings. Now, the judge did not answer the question of, are you less of a man if you don't get the actual wings?
Uh-oh. Do I need to get my man card out?
I don't know. He didn't answer that question. This was a 10-page ruling that was actually kind of funny if you read it. He had a lot of, it didn't drum up enough, evidence and that sort of stuff here. So even though Buffalo Wild Wings boneless wings are not actual chicken wings. I don't think there's a single person on the planet who doesn't know that.
Right.
They got sued. Yeah, U.S. District Judge John Tharp ruled in favor of Buffalo Wings in that lawsuit brought by a man who claims the company violated the Illinois Consumer Fraud Act. Eamon Halem argued that calling the little nut gatherings of meat boneless wings should mean the restaurant serves deboned wings, and he felt that they defrauded him because apparently he didn't realize that boneless wings are basically the mashed potatoes of chicken.
Well, I mean, the word buffalo is literally the company name. You thought you're getting chicken wings, you're getting buffalo.
Yeah. Could you imagine being that judge and being like, I've been through all this legal training, spent all this money, and this is the case I will be remembered for throughout all of history?
And to his credit, he had some fun with it. Okay, I want to go a little more in depth on this at 7:04 here. So late night talk show host Stephen Colbert bashing the FCC and CBS Monday night, claiming the government agency pressured the network to kill his interview with Texas state representative, who's also a candidate for U.S. Senate, James Tallarico, over concerns that it would violate the so-called equal time rule. So FCC Chair Brendan Carr was on the Ingram angle to respond to that, and he says he wasn't even involved in it.
This was Democrat on Democrat violence. CBS was very clear that Colbert could run the interview that he wanted with that political candidate. They just said you may have to comply with equal time.
Okay, so let's talk about this in more depth at 7:05, guys. And, of course, the equal time rule, which the Trump administration essentially is bringing back. It's always been on the books, but it's not been enforced for a long time, and the Trump administration is bringing it back. And that requires broadcasters to give each candidate in a race the same amount of time on air. Now, this applies to federal races, not other races. So there's the best practices. What should you do just as a responsible, entity in your community versus what should the government be doing? So I want to get into that here in just a few minutes here. All right. Of course, you know that we are covering the Winter Games. We've got the update for you every day here on the program. But the U.S. men's hockey team forced into overtime when Sweden scores with 90 seconds left in regulation, and then in overtime, this happened.
Now Quinn Hughes, we played 3.5 minutes in overtime. Quinn Hughes shoots, he scores! He scores! Quinn Hughes in overtime wins it, and the United States will move on and face Slovakia.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Lower your car payment today. Lower your car payment today. Yes, you heard us right. You can lower your car payment right now by making this free call and save up to $1,400 a year on your current car payments. Think about your current car payment right now. What's that costing you per year? Now think about what it would be like to put an extra $1,400 back in your pocket. That's the average savings our customers experience. We can help you drive the same car and pay less every month by lowering your car payment's interest rate to as low as 4.67%. At Rate Genius, we can work with you to refinance any car payment. If you qualify, it costs you nothing to find out how you can lower your car payment. To learn more, call this number right now.
800-493-5670. 800-493-5670. 800-493-5670. That's 800-493-5670.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rex Thomason. As the American military presence near Iran continues to grow, U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth will head to Nashville today to address the 2026 National Religious Broadcasters Conference. NRB attendee Lana Silk of the Transform Iran Ministry says the repressive regime in Iran is making things worse by cracking down on the growing number of Iranians who are seeking more access to the gospel.
And they will come up with ways to repress the voice of Christianity in the country. It's dangerous to be a Christian in Iran. It goes back to Jesus warning us that following him there is a cost, and we must pick up our cross to follow him. When Iranians even come to seek after Jesus before they've even chosen to commit to him, they know what it's going to cost them.
Silk adds that the Transform Iran Ministry has a three-phase approach to bringing Iranians to Jesus through evangelism, discipleship, and transformation, which is increasingly spreading access to the gospel within Iran. President Trump's Board of Peace will convene in Washington today for its very first meeting.
It's an early test of whether one of the marquee foreign policy initiatives can gain broad support or advance the shaky ceasefire agreement in the Gaza Strip. The president's ballooning ambitions for the board extend from governing and rebuilding Gaza as a futuristic metropolis to challenging the UN Security Council's role in solving conflicts. But they could be tempered by the realities on the ground in Gaza. That's where there has been so far limited progress in achieving even the more narrow aims of the ceasefire. Bob Agnew reporting.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, he's Britain's former Prince Andrew, has been arrested in the UK on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Has to do with his contacts with Jeffrey Epstein. 8 backcountry skiers have been found dead, one still missing after that avalanche near Lake Tahoe in Northern California. The Dow futures are down 118 points. NASDAQ futures off 81. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I had a lot of credit card debt, and it stressed me out. But what I thought was a solution turned out to be a problem. I kept hearing ads about settlement that seemed too good to be true. And actually, it was. When I called, they told me to stop paying my bills. That didn't sound right to me at all, so I hung up. Later, I found out that debt settlement is bad, real bad. Then I learned that there is a right way to pay off your credit cards. It's called a debt management program from the great team at Trinity. Trinity had a plan. In the end, I paid off my bills, I saved thousands, and I even improved improve my credit score.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-990-6976.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shan Scotch with your first alert forecast. We're going to be tracking temperatures back towards the lower 70s as we head towards the afternoon hours. Also going to be issued a first alert weather day as we're tracking a potential for strong to severe storms from 11 a.m. lasting towards 6 p.m. Most of that will move back off to the east as we head towards the overnight hours. Temperatures going to look to continue to cool into the weekend, tracking temperatures into the mid 40s and upper 30s. We'll continue to look at drier conditions, and next week a little bit of a rebound ahead. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shan Scotch.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
There's something magical about walking into your backyard and knowing your family is completely safe and secure. Hi, I'm Sean Long, owner of STL Fenceworks. That's the feeling my team and I have been creating for metro area families for more than 50 years. Whether you're adding your first fence or finally creating the outdoor sanctuary you've always wanted, we offer premium vinyl and stunning ornamental options, all designed around your family's specific needs and lifestyle. While other companies struggle with supply delays and rising costs, we've always proudly used all American-made materials, which means better pricing and faster installation for you. Our experienced craftsmen exemplify our motto, your satisfaction is our passion. From Warrenton to Wildwood, your neighbors trust us because we live here too. And we care about your project as much as you do. Right now is the golden time to build with flexible financing options and a commitment to completing your fence on time and on budget. Visit stlfenceworks.com.
Mike Ferguson.
I'm a stud. I'm ballsy. I don't take no from anyone.
Susie Moore.
I disagree on his assessment of the situation.
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice. Drain the swamp and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
So Stephen Colbert actually thinks he's a bigger deal than he actually is. I actually liked his show when it was still on Comedy Central.
Yeah, when it was
the Colbert
funny.
Report back when it was funny. It was Jon Stewart. I actually used to wear a T-shirt that was like Stewart Colbert in whatever year that was.
Yeah.
With the presidential. And I thought it was funny because they would satirize everybody and nobody was off limits.
That's right.
I can respect that because I can laugh at my own side. I can laugh at me. There's
Yep.
a lot to laugh at with me, and let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Jerome and I were talking about that. We're like, we're South Park generation, man. We were raised on that stuff,
Yeah.
The Colbert Report and the Daily Report both were very influential on me getting into
Oh,
politics
sure.
when I was like 12 years old. But yeah.
And Colbert had that book that was called something like "I Am America and You Can Be Too," and it was just a comedy coffee table book. It was funny.
Yeah.
And then he gets into the media and he starts talking politics, and people start telling you that you're a big deal. And then I hate this term, but influencer. And then these Hollywood types start to think that they matter. I'm like, listen, you're a really well-paid court jester. So dance, do your entertainment, amuse us, entertainer.
Mhm.
That's your job. You're a modern day court jester, and we celebrate court jesters when we used to not.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. He's just a glorified court jester. And when they try to get into giving us their opinion, it's like, hold on a second.
Right.
What was that costume you were wearing last week? I don't know if I trust you.
Yeah, and if you got something interesting to say, I'm willing to hear something from anybody.
Yeah.
But don't. And Colbert, I think, just has a certain arrogance about him that's developed over the last 10 years or so that he didn't have 20 years ago.
Well, it's almost like he played that part and then now he believes it, right? Like he can't he can't stop it. It's the old myth of if you cross your eyes, they'll get stuck that way. He did that.
Yeah, don't get high on your own supply, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So here's what happened is one of the candidates running for the U.S. Senate in Texas is a state representative named James Tallarico. And, of course, he's up against Jasmine Crockett.
Mm-hmm.
The Democrats, I think, are really worried that Jasmine Crockett could win this primary. because they're DOA.
Yeah.
If that happens. And it is phenomenal content for people like me who do shows like this if Jasmine Crockett is the nominee for Senate in Texas.
Yeah. Lots of gold.
Yeah, and the Republicans have a pretty brutal primary going on as well.
Right.
You know, with Paxton getting in here as well. So here's the thing, is CBS told Colbert, because he had Tallarico on the show, he told him and said, well, then you also have to have Crockett on. And clearly Colbert is for Tallarico.
Right.
And so what he did is he threw kind of a hissy fit and stomped his feet and then did the interview, but only put it on YouTube so that he wouldn't have to comply with the other stuff. And CBS is saying, hey, these are the federal rules. So he's mad at CBS and the FCC, meaning Colbert. And here's how the discussion actually went, at least the first introduction of it. So they introduce him and everybody's cheering, and then this happens.
Now, here's the thing. I don't usually say this to a guest, but if people are watching this right now, it's because they found us online on YouTube. I did an act of the show that's on tonight explaining why. It's not the first time you've caused some drama. FCC opening probe into The View after appearance by Tallarico. Do you mean to cause trouble?
I think that Donald Trump is worried that we're about to flip Texas.
Yeah, okay. So, and then, of course, Colbert's audience goes wild and nuts on that.
Well, he's probably going to get more views now.
Oh, sure.
Being on YouTube than on CBS, so.
You know, it's funny, you're saying that joking, but that's probably true. That's
yeah,
probably,
yeah.
And Tallarico raised like $2 million, you know, from the argument that the Trump administration is so scared of us that they wouldn't let us on, you know, Stephen Colbert's show. Okay, so that's not exactly true. So as Brendan Carr said, and we've had the soundbite in the news dump, what CBS said is the Trump administration has made it very clear that they're now going to be enforcing the so-called equal time rule.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not wild about the equal time rule. I'll be really honest. I'm not on board with the Trump administration's approach to this. So I'll explain why in a minute here. But they're saying equal time rule. The Trump administration has basically said, all of you broadcasters, you late night shows, you daytime talk shows like The View and all those, you are 99% anti-Trump, and they are.
Right, they are.
And 99% might be undershooting it just a little bit, and they are. And so they basically said, we got this rule on the books, we can hit back.
Yeah.
My guess is that has a little more to do with Donald Trump than it does a wider
Reality,
policy
yeah.
issue. But there's like the rules here. It has like overtly, like the FCC has said for years, we just don't enforce that. You know, time has passed for that. Consumers can go get opinions wherever they want.
Wherever, yeah.
We're not going to micromanage it. And so CBS said, well, now we're being told that this is going to happen. And so you can do the interview, but you have to have the other candidates on too. And that's basically the essence of the equal time rule, is the government saying if you have candidate A, then you must have the other side and give them equal time.
Yeah.
And so they're not being honest in the presentation of it. Not that I'm a fan of CBS by any means, but to some degree they're going, hey, they're breathing down our neck. Look what happened over at ABC.
Right.
When they
yeah.
cracked down over
Mm-hmm.
there. You know, they're investigating The View.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not worth the trouble. Do the interview, but then you got to have Crockett on, and then you might have to have Cornyn on, then you may have to have Paxton on. And Colbert isn't going to do that.
Because you know what that's called? That's called good journalism, to having
Right.
all the viewpoints on. You know, there's a difference between the federal government saying you have to have these other viewpoints on. We can talk about that being a
Right.
whether that's a First Amendment infringement or not. But the point is, like, that's just having everyone's opinion on there. That's just good journalism,
Mhm.
you know? And so obviously Stephen Colbert is not a good journalist.
No.
And so, you know, I get it. You're going to have on, but the other piece of it, you know, you have so many media sources, like you were saying. There is no point in the fair use law, on top of the fair time law, on top of the fact that it's blatantly a First Amendment right violation.
I think it is too. I mean, you know, for instance, and you may say, well, Mike, when's the last time you had a Democrat on? We have had Democrats on. I'm
Sure.
actually working on, we're going to have some more coming up in the future, especially in the election season. The reality is that a station like this, we want to hear more about the primaries than the general election. On the Missouri side, Republicans are going to win. On the Illinois side, Democrats are going to win. So the primaries are really where it kind of matters.
Yeah.
But to the bigger point, the reality is this, is that it's easy to get all excited about it now because the punches are being thrown at them.
Right.
On the left, because them on the left are so blatantly stupidly left-wing bias.
Yep.
Always be careful of the weaponry you give the government in a republic where power regularly changes hands and changes hands by design.
By design and overnight, possibly.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, our good Democratic friend Scooter says, or as rather asks, is this show required to have Democrat candidates on, and should it be? And I would like to say, I mean, we have tried. They don't oftentimes.
We've offered, yeah.
Yeah, they don't.
The short answer is okay, so the short answer is yes and no. The bigger answer is no. So, for instance, once the filing starts up in a federal race, and this only applies to federal races, if we have Bob Onder on, right now we're not in an election cycle. Bob just gives us updates from what's happening in Washington, D.C. But let's say we're in election season. Bob Onder comes on. Other candidates in that primary could argue, hey, I want equal time, but I don't mind having him on. That's fine. Once we get past the primary, then the Democrat could argue, that they could have that. And again, I'm willing to have him on. I'm fine with that. I don't know how much the audience wants to hear of that, but I'm fine with it. But the question is, should the federal government require me to? I would object to the federal government saying, no, you're not allowed to have that person on your show, Mike. And I've got as much of a problem saying you must have somebody on the show. Like, for instance, in the Secretary of State's race, and we'll get to what you're saying in a second here, there was just a nutcase on the ballot on the Republican side. Now, she's now running a nutcase campaign in another state somewhere. But I had people, some of her supporters were like, have her on. And I went, no.
Right.
She's a waste of time. And I should have the right to go, no, some people don't deserve time on the air.
Right.
Not even just because I don't agree, but because I have the right to say, I'm not going to platform somebody who's insane.
Bingo.
That sort of thing. And I don't think the government should force me to.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go with that, is the equal time rule is essentially compelled speech. You cannot, under the First Amendment protections, you cannot be compelled against your own volition to engage in any form of speech or expression that you are not supportive of.
Now, here's how the FCC and the industry looks at it, though. Because the airwaves, we're talking about over the airwaves, are considered public property.
Right, yes.
We have a license to use the public airwaves.
Yep.
And so once airwaves were discovered and the technology, that's how we set it up. That's part of the condition, is that you serve the public interest.
Right.
But then who decides what the public interest is?
Yeah, and I understand, again, like, these are licenses that are handed out by the government, so you don't want the government's friends being in charge of that.
Right.
But, like, here's a novel idea. Have less government involvement.
Right.
Deregulate the airwaves, because they're not the only means of medium anymore. And I don't understand why when government causes a problem for regulation, they go, hey, I got an idea. Let's regulate it more. Right. That'll make it better.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Right, exactly. It's the old thing. It's like, hey, I broke your leg. Thank God I was here to give you some crutches.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
So don't get me wrong. I do use some judgment to say that person is running a Facebook campaign. They have 3 followers and they've raised $8. No, that's not a serious candidate. I'm not going to spend that. Hey, this person's making a run for it. They've got some interesting stuff to say. I may not agree with them, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get interesting stuff, out there on the air. So while it's, like I said, it's really easy to go, yes, get them. They've been biased for all these years. Somebody hold them to account. Well, the market can hold them to account.
That's right. And it is right now.
CBS is losing like $30 million a year on Colbert's show.
Yeah.
The market has spoken. He says he's being censored. He's a victim. The reality is his show sucks and nobody's watching it, and that is regulating him more than any government could.
Yep. Yeah, hey, listen, I am Billy Crow, County Councilman in Jefferson County, but I also host a show, Jeffco Patriot Radio. It's on Sundays at high noon, myself and Tim Jones. Check us out this week. We're going to have actually my wife on. She's on the board of a group called CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocates, and they help kids in the foster care system. So if you care about kids, tune in and hear what we got going on.
Stop it right now before you blow us all away. You wanna do that now? Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is your cousin.
One of the things I love about Nutrition Stop, not just the fact that it's made such a big difference in my health. Matter of fact, I went to a baseball practice yesterday, and again, guys I haven't seen in a while, they keep asking, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're working out? Sure. I said, but what I'm really doing is changing what I put inside my body, but I'm also changing what I put on my body as well. Matter of fact, I got a text the other day from Ryan, who owns Nutrition Stop. They just got restocked on elk. So they've got really lean, high-protein elk, and they've got in ground, they've got steak, and you don't get that very often. And so they've got it, and it is all natural at Nutrition Stop. But he also texted me the other day, said, Mike, next time you're in, we've got a new toothpaste in that is all natural, remineralizes your teeth, and that is a massive part of your health. It's more so than what people realize. And these are things that you don't normally think of. You're like, well, just grab the $1, $2 thing of toothpaste with all of those chemicals and all the fluoride and all the stuff that gets into your body through your gums and through the inside of your mouth. But if you have healthy things going onto your body topically, that means healthy things are getting into your body. He tells me this is a game changer, so I'm going to check it out. NutritionStop.com, and they're just off of Mexico Road in St. Peter's, not too far from I-17 Cave Springs. Easy way, put Nutrition Stop in your maps, and it'll take you right there. Go in, ask questions. This is where I get my protein. This is where I get a lot of my vegetables and grains. This is where I get my supplements. Ask them questions. They are passionate about getting you from wherever you are right now to the next stage of your healthy, natural life. NutritionStop.com.
Colombo and Company.
Join us every day for conversations with a wide variety of guests as we keep you informed and up to speed on all the important news and headlines you need to know.
Live and local, weekdays at 2 on NewsTalkSTL.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC.
I'm in my late 60s. My husband died a few years ago. He did all of our taxes. I sold a piece of property last year, and I forgot to claim the proceeds of the sale. Next thing I know, I got a letter from the IRS telling me that I owe over $50,000. Now I have a huge tax problem. I don't have that kind of money. I wish I knew who to call.
If you sold property in the last calendar year or didn't claim all of your part-time or even retirement income, you could be in big trouble with the IRS. Call first before they send you a letter. If you've already got a letter, call. We'll help you file years of past tax returns and save you time and money. So call the tax doctor. The call is confidential and free.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
This app is absolutely fantastic.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
It is awesome.
Download the all-new NewsTalk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
Hey everyone, this is State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL.
I appreciate the comments we're getting on social media as well. And just so you know that it is not easy to get Democrats to come on a conservative radio station. I'm not making a joke. It's just, if you're a Democrat, would you go where most people disagree with you?
I mean, I would love to go on a Democrat show if I was.
Sure,
but to your point, yes. I mean, we actively do send out from time to time invitations, and we've had a couple people say that they will follow up on that. And we don't ever hear back.
I do think that we're going to have one of the key Democrats in the local race on the show here, and I'm really looking forward to it. I got a lot of friends who are Democrats.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a whole different thing. And by the way, the local races are different than the federal races. Local races really aren't as affected. Now, I will tell you that. In the local races here, what I try not to do is basically I try to take a similar approach to it, because there's hundreds and hundreds. I mean, you know this.
Yeah,
I mean, you're in one of them,
right?
Hundreds and hundreds of races out there. You just don't have time. We don't have enough space on the air to get to everybody. But there are key, interesting things out there. I want to get updates from the Capitol. I'm not going to stop doing that.
Right.
But I do offer the other perspectives, but keep in mind, we can only offer.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I've noticed on our show on Sunday, like the only people that really, on the other side, that really want to be on are like the loud, obnoxious ones that really don't have anything to say. They just kind of want to yell at you. And that's not good radio. That's not educating the public. That's just annoying.
Well, and that's why I try to really encourage. I mean, I've said from day one, and the station's been on the air for almost 5 years now, is, hey, those of you who are the Democrats, you're on the left, you disagree, you think we are completely wrong about everything, please get involved in the conversation.
That's right.
I want you involved in the conversation. And if you believe that your stance and your position is correct and true, then you should have nothing to fear from an honest conversation.
Right.
Nothing at all. But that doesn't mean I put every nutcase on the air.
Right, yeah.
That doesn't mean I put everybody who's tilting at windmills, on the air.
Yeah, if you're one of those kinds of people, call us in the Dr. Kohler show on Saturday. Same time.
There you go, exactly. Okay, so speaking of electoral politics, big weekend for the Republicans coming up, Lincoln Days.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, Tim and Chris are going to be there doing their show tomorrow from Lincoln Days as well. We're about to talk to Missouri Republican Chairman, former Lieutenant Governor Peter Kinder here in a little bit. There's I want to caution everybody to look at the upcoming midterms differently than what we tend to look at right now. Right now, we tend to look at it as this macro thing.
Mm-hmm.
Does America like or dislike Republicans, like or dislike Democrats, and then that's going to be reflected in the overall results. Look at it in a micro level, meaning that you've got 435 congressional U.S. House seats up for election. And if you are in Kentucky, or you are in Virginia, or you are in Missouri, you are not necessarily paying attention to what's happening all over the place. You're looking at the race right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do the national things affect it? Absolutely. And so we hear a lot of folks, essentially in conservative media, who are saying, look at how crazy the Democrats are right now, and they are. There's no way the American people are going to reward them by giving them control of the U.S. House. That is not the right way to look at these races. The right way is to look at each and every one and say who's vulnerable based on what's happening in that area.
Right.
And yeah, it's possible the Democrats could win the U.S. House. And you may say, well, that's because of all the gerrymandering. Well, possibly.
Right.
California, sure. That could happen. I mean, Texas did it, California did it, Missouri did it a little bit, and Illinois has done it for years. And so you can look at all that, but the bottom line is don't think for a minute that it's all said and done and that the Democrats have been rejected past tense. That's something you have to reset every single election cycle.
Yeah, and I think with that, when you're talking to your neighbor that may disagree with you, if she or he is talking about CNN's talking points and you're talking about Fox's talking points, you're never going to get anywhere. You need to talk about, does that person represent you and your community's values? Have you seen them at the Walmart? You know what I mean? Right. Do you know who this person is? Do they go to the places you go? And decide on that. That's where you can really win over your neighbors to say, hey, that blue-haired leftist, like that, especially in Illinois when you got these districts that are all stemming from Chicago, and the candidate's from Chicago but has to represent someone from the farm. Going, have you ever seen that person at our county fair? No. Why do you want them to represent you? That's where the case is made. And then you get in the red states like ours. Like, I love Jason Smith. He's my congressman, House Ways and Means chairman. Sure. So that's a big deal, especially for our port, right? Make sure we get we're the place that gets the goodies, right? That's how it always goes for Republicans. You don't get to spend, but we want to spend on our stuff. But my point is primaries, because just because that person's a Republican doesn't mean that they're your flavor of Republican.
Sure.
And if you can get one that better represents you, why not?
Well, that's also, I think, goes into showing up to political events. A lot of people are like, well, it's just going to be a bunch of people yelling about nothing or getting worked up about something. But I've actually gotten more involved in the ones that are in my area, and I'm actually surprised by who actually shows up and the speeches that they give when they're invited to be speakers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and more importantly, you can ask them questions.
And you can ask them questions, and then you get to also observe how are they interacting with the crowd. So I think that also, again, it helps keep the accountability on them if you support them. But there are so many people that I know that just feel so frustrated and helpless, even when it comes to local politics. It's like, well, you're not at these events. You don't go anywhere. You go online, and then you're arguing with somebody about what somebody was saying online about a federal person.
Well, to take that even further, we had Mike Cook on earlier, and he was we were talking about the this initiative thing for Festus where everybody signed a petition. I guarantee you, more people signed that petition than voted in the last municipal election, and they're saying, well, we're not being represented. Well, you're not going to the polls. And in Missouri, most of the elections are decided in the primary, whether that's for the Republican or Democrat, and those are highly undervoted in. Pay attention, right?
Okay, a couple things. One, we've heard the traditional argument that in the midterm elections, that's an automatic headwind against the party in power, whoever it is.
Sure.
That's actually a real thing. We Americans, now we tend to live in our circles of conservatives and or MAGA and or just Republican and the different stripes, because MAGA doesn't necessarily mean conservative and vice versa. But a lot of times we forget that the typical American voter who doesn't spend all day thinking about news and politics, every once in a while, like, I just want to change. Things are rough. Things are more expensive. That's a lot of tax. I just want to change. And they don't think into it as deeply as we do. That doesn't make them dumb. It just means that they're focused on other parts of their life. And so that's why messaging to them is different than messaging to the policy wonks.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we were born out of rebellion as a nation, right? So, I mean, that only makes sense that we're just like, you know what? This government's been in there too long. 2 years is too long. Let's change the dynamics of it. And you're right. I mean, I bet 80+% of America is not in the weeds like we are, right?
So here's a question. Is Donald Trump on the ballot everywhere in America? I mean, is his name on there? No.
Right.
But is the election about Donald Trump? And I think that is a default position media and Democrats want to say. And in some deep red areas, Republicans want to say, I don't think Donald Trump's on the ballot. I really don't.
Yeah, I think for, the policy wonks like us, I think a lot of them are feeling like Donald Trump is on the ballot of either we have to stop his agenda or we got to make sure he gets 2 more years of his good policy or what they feel like is good policies. But I think most of America is kind of done listening to the hype either way.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people will be shocked at is that the majority of Americans don't feel as strongly about President Trump as those involved. So if you're really involved, he's either an angel or a demon.
Right.
But to most of America, they basically go, well, he's another politician. I like some things. I don't like some other things. And they don't feel as passionately as the wonks and the activists do.
Right.
Yeah, the politically active people I know that are in other states, including some very deep red states and areas of other states, I think that the way that this administration has performed so far, being endorsed by Trump or having that MAGA sort of push to your campaign is not going to hold the same weight that it did back in 2024.
Sure. I think that's right.
It's really going to come down to, is there a non-MAGA right-wing option that is viable to vote for? And then if it comes down to some loony leftist Democrat and then a MAGA, backed candidate, then I obviously have to go with the MAGA backed candidate.
The Democrats have a massive opportunity to make big gains, but I think they're too insane to capitalize on it. I really do. I think the Democratic Party is so fringe right now that they are going to choose to miss a lot of opportunities because they are so tied up in fringe ideologies. So they've got the opportunity. I think they had the opportunity to win in 2024, and they chose not to because they valued insane ideology over what would appeal to the middle in the country.
Lincoln Days is also going to be going on this weekend, by the way. And as you know, News Talk STL will be there, of course. Of course we are.
Of course.
Before those festivities kick off, though, we're getting ready for a preview of them from Missouri Republican Party Chairman Peter Kinder, and that's coming up right now at 7:35.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Democrats produce mobs. Republicans produce jobs.
On News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shan Scotch with your first alert forecast. We're going to be tracking temperatures back towards the lower 70s as we head towards the afternoon hours. Also going to be issued a first alert weather day as we're tracking a potential for strong to severe storms from 11 a.m. lasting till 6 p.m. Most of that will move back off to the east as we head towards the overnight hours. Temperatures going to look to continue to cool into the weekend, tracking temperatures into the mid 40s and upper 30s. We'll continue to look at drier conditions, and next week a little bit of a rebound ahead. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shan Scotch.
John Beal Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call John Beal to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Beal has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Beal.
Larry Connor's commentary, brought to you by Vincent's Jewelers, offering a wide selection of jewelry, including lab-grown diamonds, affordable earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, up to 75% off their natural counterparts. Visit VincentsJewelers.com. This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
If there is a sport being played, especially if there's money being bet on that game, there is a possibility of cheating. And baseball is full of such stories. Pitchers spitting on the ball, using something to rough it up. Those and other foreign substances can make the ball move, spin differently. Now we have allegations of cheating at the Olympics. This is not the first time for the Olympics. Over the years, questions about performance-enhancing drugs, unsanctioned changes to sports gear. But this latest controversy, who would have thunk it? It involves the sport of curling. I know many of you don't see curling as a sport. You're just shoving what is called a rock down the ice to a particular spot. A Swedish curler claims the men's Canadian team double-touched the rock. That's a no-no. The Canadians denied it, eh? But the very next day, Team Canada was accused again of the same crime. Plus, now there's a claim that Team Britain at one point cheated. And you thought curling was just a level above a drinking game. Silly you. Pour me another.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Missouri's premier boat show returns in 2026 as the St. Louis Boat and Fishing Show comes to America's Center the weekend of February 20th through the 22nd. See world-class fishermen working the latest new lures in the hog trough and see how the live fish react. Ride the mechanical bull, see a live stingray encounter. Plus, stop by the STL Power Sports booth and register to win a new e-bike valued at $3,000. The St. Louis Boat and Fishing Show, America's Center, February 20th through the 22nd.
JC's Wayback Machine.
This week we dig into the archives for the lead singer of the song Vehicle and who's written songs for 38 Specials, Skinner and Cheap Trick, and who co-wrote Eye of the Tiger, the great Jim Peterick. And we'll remember Harry Carey, who left us 28 years ago this week. All brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. Every Saturday night, 6 to 9 on News Talk STL.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros and Exteriors, your all-in-one service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Christine and I discovered Gutter Pros and Exteriors when we bought our home and inherited a gutter problem. And they've also repaired siding damage on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros team are also the best for repairing other exterior damage, including fascia, soffit, and all siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros and Exteriors can help your home or business right now at gutterpros.com.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
It's about time somebody stood up for true American values.
What this country needs is some backbone.
Finally, a president who wants to make real change.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, this is Vince Colonnese. I'll talk to you tonight at 8, but now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL.
It's a big weekend for Republicans in Missouri. Lincoln Days coming up, and obviously with this being a midterm election year, a lot of momentum and a lot of planning and a lot of getting sort of the activists and getting the troops fired up to go into the campaign season, which is frankly underway now.
Yeah.
I'm Mike Ferguson. Jefferson County Councilman Billy Crow is in for Susie Moore today. Producer Jerome is here as well. We're now joined by Missouri GOP Chairman and former Lieutenant Governor Peter Kinder right now. Peter, great chat with you again. Appreciate you being on the program. Obviously, big weekend. Like I said, you're going to be a really busy guy, so appreciate your time right now. When you go into, obviously, a lot of business needs to be done, but there's a lot of rallying the base that happens as well. What's your assessment of kind of the mood of Republicans right now? It's got to be upbeat in Missouri, but you know that this is a crucial election year coming up here in not just August but November.
No, very definitely, Mike. Thanks for having me. Missouri has trended sharply in our direction. 4, 5, 6 election cycles, and we're gratified that the voters have placed that trust in our candidates and our office holders. And we want to keep that going. And, we face significant challenges this year. Yes, our enthusiasm is running high among the folks who will gather in Springfield, and I encourage people to come down. We're at the Oasis Hotel and Convention Center right off I-44 Glenstone in Springfield between tomorrow and Sunday morning for Lincoln Days. But so the enthusiasm of those folks is running hard, but the intensity of across the state and across the U.S. this year, as most off-year elections, tends to be with the party out of power in the White House. And that is true in Missouri. We're seeing that in polling. So we need to energize our conservative voters and everyone get somebody else and get them registered and get them to the polls who will vote for the common sense mainstream conservative agenda that Mike Kehoe and our office holders are fighting to enact.
So, Mr. Kennedy, this is Billy Crow here. So when there's so many middle of the road voters out there that may, like you said, be going, I'm against the party in power just because I'm against whatever's in power, or maybe they're not really keen on Donald Trump and they feel like a vote for the Republican Party is a vote for Donald Trump, and they're worried about that. Like, how do you reach? What's the plan? What's the vision to reach voters like that and say, hey, no, this is a conservative party that has real conservative values?
Well, on the national level, we want to remind them that every Democrat in Congress, in the House, and in the Senate voted for a massive tax increase on Americans when they voted against extending President Trump's tax cuts from the first term. That was in the big bill that Republicans pushed through last year in the U.S. Congress, with a Missourian, by the way, Congressman Jason Smith from the 8th District, my congressman, chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, pushing that bill through. And that bill contained enormously popular things like no tax on tips for our folks out there who are working so hard in the service industries, restaurant and so forth, and many other fine features that had that bill not passed, would have represented the largest tax increase on Americans ever. So that's one thing. We want to enact Governor Kehoe's agenda, which includes eliminating our state income tax so we can stop treading water compared to our surrounding states and move ahead like some of our surrounding states are. Let me give you an example. The neighboring state of Tennessee, when I was growing up, I had cousins down there, spent a chunk of every summer in a small town in western Tennessee. And I used to think when I was a kid, man, Tennessee is way behind us. This is a backward state compared to the state I hail from, Missouri, that I'm so proud of. But in my lifetime, Tennessee has vaulted ahead of us. Mm-hmm. They have no income tax. Have you been to Nashville in the last 3, 4, 5 years?
Yeah, it's booming.
Seen all the cranes?
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried to get a hotel room there and you get a quote of in a Hampton Inn or Holiday Inn Express of $350 a night? Nashville and Tennessee is booming because they put in their constitution no income tax. And people are moving there. Missourians are moving there. And we want to stop that. We want to make Missouri competitive again. Reason why we shouldn't be. We're right here in the middle of the United States, middle of this great continent with great transportation assets, the rivers, the interstate highways, and we should be thriving. And instead, we are falling behind relative to other states like Texas, Florida, Tennessee, and other states with no income tax. So that's a big part of the positive agenda we have to put forward.
We're visiting with Peter Kinder, former Missouri Lieutenant Governor, obviously now the chair of the Missouri Republican Party. And I remember when I first started in the industry that Democrats were in charge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was a bellwether state, but there was a Democratic speaker, there was a Democratic governor, and so now it's gone from being a bellwether state that even at one point leaned blue, even in my career span, to now deep red, super majorities with the Republicans. It's easy to get complacent, and it's easy to have, fractures within a super majority. Look what's happened in states like Kansas. When you're leading the Republican Party, how are the ways that you prevent that to keep maybe different aspects of the right, different aspects of the Republican or conservative movement on the same page enough to avoid the fate of things that happen in states like Kansas?
Yeah, I've taken that lesson to heart, Mike, and I guess is that to try to constantly remind our party faithful, both rank and file Republicans across Missouri and also office holders, that we're on the same team. This is a team sport. It is not an individual, athletic contest. We need to be pulling in the same direction. And we need to face down the common foe and their radical agenda. There are no moderate Democrats worthy of that moniker anymore. On to the neo-Marxist AOC, Bernie Sanders, Mayor Mamdani in New York agenda, which is higher taxes. It's never enough. Empower unions instead of workers, and all the rest of the radical agenda, abortion on demand through the entire 9 months of pregnancy. Dozens of House Democrats in Missouri and Jefferson City 2 or 3 weeks ago voted against protection for an infant born alive during an abortion. Successful abortion produces an infant born alive, and Missouri Republicans in the House advanced a bill to protect those children, and several dozen Democrats voted against that protection. That's a revolution from when I went to the Missouri Senate in 1993 as a freshman. There were dozens and dozens of pro-life Democrats in the Missouri House and Senate, and all the labor Democrats from North St. Louis County, they were all pro-life lawmakers. No more in the Missouri House and Senate. So we need to get that word out along with all our positive economic agenda that is embodied in the bill that President Trump helped pass last year.
Hey, Mr. Kinder, we're going to have a lot of fun. I know you guys are going to have a lot of fun activities at the Lincoln Days. Anything in particular to celebrate the nation's 250th anniversary?
Well, we will be emphasizing that all weekend, and I know our speakers will touch on it. We have both senators coming, Senator Schmidt and Senator Hawley will be in attendance. Governor Kehoe will stop by, and he has a very busy schedule that I know the Republican governors are meeting in D.C. right now, and he has to hurry back from there and I think miss a black tie event Saturday night at the White House for the governors in order to make part of our Lincoln Day weekend. We also are featuring from Oklahoma, who many of you have seen on national media, and that is Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, is our dinner speaker on Saturday night. So we're excited about all those and all our statewide officials, House President Pro Tem of the Senate, and so forth.
All right, Peter Kinder, chair now of the Missouri Republican Party. People want to maybe check it out, say, that sounds like fun, I may be able to make it. Website, social media, what's the way to do that? Because I think they can actually still buy tickets even today, right?
Yes, they can. mogop.org.
Easy enough. All right, Peter, we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, listen, our own Tim Jones and Chris Arps will be at the Lincoln Days as well. In fact, they're going to be broadcasting their show from the event tomorrow afternoon from 4 to 6. So make sure you check that out on NewsTalkSTL.com for more information.
He's a rebel and a runner. He's a signal turning green. He's a restless young romantic wants to...
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I've driven all over Washington, D.C. I cannot find the money tree.
On NewsTalk STL.
I've got Dr. Michael Lewis here, West Point graduate, physician, and retired Army colonel. Is considered the world's leading expert on the use of omega-3s for traumatic brain injury and concussions. Stuart Tomp brings over 30 years of experience in the supplement industry, brought $1 billion of products to the market, and has appeared in over 6,000 media interviews worldwide, and travels internationally and teaches on health.
Stuart Tomp here, and I've come across the biggest breakthrough in personalized nutrition I've seen in 25 years.
Dr. Lewis here. You know, for the first time, we can measure cellular and gut health. So you can start testing and stop guessing and make decisions based on real data. I'm working with world-class scientists and physicians, and what they're doing is changing everything.
You can message me at elizabeth@statmedicalllc.com. That is elizabeth@statmedicalllc.com.
There's only one place you can get pizza cooked over coals. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield Valley. Of course, Napoli Brothers has a great selection of pasta dishes. Between the pizza and pasta, trust me, you will not leave hungry. Then, a few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, a wide variety of quality cigars, each offering a unique smoke. That cigar, some premium whiskey, all you need to do is enjoy. Lit Cigar Lounge and Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, Chesterfield Valley.
If you love your pet, which I know you do, then they deserve the excellent treatment and care they'll receive at Pacific Animal Hospital in Pacific, Missouri, a full-service veterinarian facility. Originally built and grown by my dad, Dr. Bill Jones, a new generation of wonderful veterinarians and staff at Pacific continue to provide outstanding medical, surgical, dental, boarding, and grooming services for your favorite furry friends. Our family entrusts the care of our pets only to the experienced docs and staff at Pacific Animal Hospital. You should too. Call them today, 636-257-2100, 24/7 at PacificVets.com, PacificVets.com.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL.
Did you see this news out of the UK? The royal formerly known as Prince Andrew arrested. Like actually arrested, put in handcuffs and arrested. They raided whatever state that he's at or that he's been given. I don't know how that stuff works. But yeah, he was actually arrested, and this appears to be related to the Epstein stuff.
You know, that's pretty incredible. Just, you know, we talking about the British and how they're all proper and etiquette. Yeah. And like, can you imagine like having to be the ones like, all right, we're going to have to put you in handcuffs. Like that goes against all their
I'm
stuff.
Sure it was very polite and proper, you know. I'm sure it was the most dignified raid and
right.
And arrest probably ever that happened.
Well, don't discount the Canadians because the police there will say sorry before they put the cuffs on.
They'll say sorry. Sorry. But you've got well, he's not Prince anymore.
Right.
He was stripped of that over the Epstein stuff.
The monarch formerly known as Prince.
That's right. And he so he's now been arrested, and they say it's for investigation of misconduct while in office, because we tend to forget that the royal family over there, that's actually under their constitution kind of an office, so to speak. They don't have any real power, but that's their office. And so this certainly is related to his behavior regarding the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, because he was in the thick of this. I mean, you know, essentially this is a really, really, really bad pervy guy.
Yeah, after going through the files, it's actually quite insane how little he ever considered he would ever be exposed for this. I mean, blatantly just very clear that he did not anticipate anybody ever holding him accountable for this. No sense of shame. But it is also interesting, though, that as you mentioned, the charge is not doing the bad things that we have actual photographic evidence of him doing. It is for abusing his position as a royal. Why don't we see that here, though?
Yeah, because we talk about what we want to see, perp walks, and we've had Republicans and Democrats say that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to see something to that effect with the arrest in the UK. So even they're doing that. Is our political and media and academic and whatever else, is our elite here even more untouchable than somebody who was at one point literally in the royal family?
So that thought is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, considering, but again, we're 250th anniversary of trying to kick that stuff to the curb. On a side note, all I know is every time Jerome texts me, have you seen this Epstein file update? I'm like, I don't even want to look.
Oh, you get those too?
I do. I'm like, oh man, how bad is it?
Oh, Billy's in the club.
How big is your distro list?
Oh man, you can email me, Jerome at NewsTalkSTL.
Yeah,
if you'd
yeah,
like
yeah.
to talk, because we actually have listeners too that will email me things about this as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it is a very small club, but
Yeah.
I appreciate you putting up with it.
Yeah, but back to the point. Yeah, I mean, how untouchable our elites are. But it's really interesting to see, like, I mean, will he be stiff upper lipped and take it, or will he start dumping on everyone?
I think that could be what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Is if he was up to his neck in this,
Right.
then he knows where the rest of the stuff is buried.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that could be a massive, massive leverage point. I have not been to the UK for like 8 years. I haven't been there in quite a while. You know, they do love the royal family.
Oh, yeah.
Even if there are individual ones they don't like. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I was actually in the UK when what's his name married Meghan Markle.
Oh,
Whichever
yeah.
one. I was actually in. Where was I? I was in St. Andrews, I think. I was in Scotland when that happened, and we were in this pub, and we were just getting lunch there. We had gone from Edinburgh, and we were stopping in St. Andrews, and we were on our way up to, I think, the Highlands, and we're there having our lunch at the pub, and then when the wedding was coming on, the whole place filled up like crazy, and you could not get a single eyeball off of those screens in there. I mean, it was like watching, you know, Sunday Night Football or whatever at a sports bar here. I mean, and the men included. I mean,
Right.
this was a big deal. Even though I was in Scotland, they don't care for the British, but they do like the royal family, and I never quite understood that dynamic. So they were literally talking about independence, but they really like that. And even though they clearly were not big fans of Meghan Markle, it was still a royal family thing. So I can only imagine what it's like in England, and I've never been to England proper.
I wonder if this becomes for them too, like a Nixon Watergate episode was for us, of just like finally like really like throwing off the shackles of trusting government and trusting your elected officials and seeing them as these respected elders that care for you, right?
And it's not like they haven't had scandals before. I mean, they've had members of the royal family who were connected to Nazis back in back in the 40s. I mean, so, and of course then they were run out. I actually thought the series The Crown did a good job of portraying that whole situation there. But they've had scandals. You know, they've had a number of them over the years, and we have them too. And does it erode that trust? I don't know. Remember, that's an institution that predates us. We think 250 years.
That's true.
And we're like, wow, 250 years, that's amazing. Well, remember, their history goes back centuries
Thousands.
and centuries and centuries and centuries over there. I mean, you know, when I was in Scotland, I was actually told by a tour guide once, like, don't bother with that. That's only 400 years old. You know, like this one over here is 1,300 years old, you know, and so they've got a whole different perspective on that. And they have survived multiple, you know, scandals over the years, but this one may not be so much about the royal family as it is about the foundations of the elite, not just there, but worldwide.
Yeah. I got nothing. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
I'm silent.
It is a very kind of grim, sobering thing to realize that a lot of these, what's been dismissed as conspiracy theories regarding different elements of the stuff, are finally coming out and been like, wait a sec, it is as bad as a lot of these fictional movies we were watching. I mean, how many times have we seen a dystopian future movie where it's like the government's all in cahoots with each other, they're doing all this gross stuff behind the scenes, and then some random person shows up that's like the hero that's going to take on the entire system and save the day, and then it's like, oh, that would only ever happen in a movie. Quite world leaders, prime ministers, crown princes, I mean, the presidents, there are a international network of people that were all at the very least in the know that this was going on here, And
well, look at J.B. Pritzker's brother.
Yeah.
Had to
Yeah.
step down
Yeah.
from the hotel chain.
Yeah.
Because he's been caught up in this as well.
And, and then to realize, like, so what are we paying taxes for again? I
Yeah.
mean,
Right.
Why are we all fighting each other over nonsense, stupid things? It's incredible. And then you look at the other ripple effects of certain things when it comes to the occupation of academia, making
Mhm.
people all gender confused and stuff. I mean, it's not
Right.
all related, but there are elements of it that it's just like, how did we get to this point?
Well, how many more times can we let Alex Jones be right about something?
Oh, God, don't get me started on that moron. Oh, I hate Alex Jones. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I saw his video, and I was like, man, that's a dystopian movie, and I'm not big into them, and I'm digging. Oh, wait, that was just the East Side. That was East St. Louis. Never mind. That wasn't right.
They served our country with honor. Now it's our turn to serve them. Join the freedom13.org for an unforgettable gala honoring America's heroes, February 27th at the Foundry Arts Center in St. Charles. A special evening supporting Freedom 13's bold mission. 50 camps in 50 states on more than 50,000 acres, building 650 homes for veterans, police, and their families. Tickets and sponsorship opportunities are available now. Visit thefreedom13.org. That's thefreedom13.org.
Looking for an underwater adventure or a scaly new friend? Dive into Tropical World Pets on Watson Road. For 32 years, this family-owned wonderland has been St. Louis's go-to destination for all things aquatic and reptilian. With over 7,000 square feet of aquariums, we're home to the area's largest selection of freshwater fish, including rare cichlids you won't find anywhere else. But that's not all. We've got tarantulas, snakes, and lizards galore. Tropical World Pets, 314-849-4020, or visit twpstl.com.
A Disney cruise is no ordinary vacation. It's an adventure, a fairy tale, a dream. Step aboard and discover where favorite Disney characters meet fun for the whole family. Where total rest and relaxation meet the ultimate escape and excitement. Where a dream vacation meets a magical cruise. Only on Disney Cruise Line, where magic meets the sea.
Magic Expeditions will make planning your Disney cruise easy. Reach out at magicexpeditions.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Former British Prince Andrew's arrest in the UK is the latest fallout from the Jeffrey Epstein case.
The Thames Valley Police said Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor was suspected of misconduct in public office. The force, which covers areas west of London, said it was assessing reports that the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor sent trade reports to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in 2010. The police force did not name Mountbatten-Windsor, as is normal under UK law. But when asked if he had been arrested, the force pointed to a statement saying that they had arrested a man in his 60s. Karen Shamas, London.
And regarding his brother's arrest, King Charles says the law must run its course. Members of President Trump's Board of Peace assemble in Washington today for the panel's first meeting, the focus on stabilizing and rebuilding war-shattered Gaza. There's some not-so-good news for the Democrats heading into the crucial midterm elections.
A new AP NORC poll finds views of the Democratic Party among rank-and-file Democrats have not bounced back since President Donald Trump's 2024 victory. That's despite a series of wins notched by Democratic candidates in recent special elections. New polling from the Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs Research shows that only about 7 in 10 Democrats have a positive view of the Democratic Party. Keith Peters, Washington.
Fierce winter weather has blocked crews from recovering the bodies of 8 backcountry skiers killed by an avalanche near Lake Tahoe earlier this week. One skier is still missing, deadliest avalanche in the U.S. in decades. Walmart delivering another quarter of impressive sales. However, the retailer's outlook for the future remains uncertain. On Wall Street, Dow futures down 162. More on these stories, townhall.com.
This is Dennis Prager for AmFed Coin and Bullion. There's something about the feel of a gold coin in your hand and the way the light reflects off its intricate details that has always captivated me. Nick Grovich, AmFed's owner, turned that same passion into his livelihood. Nick began collecting coins as a teen, and that interest grew into a nationally respected business offering only the finest quality coins at the most competitive prices. But the truth is that although Nick is a rare coin dealer, he doesn't believe in rare coins. Rare coins do not make sound investments, but they do make dealers a lot of money. See, that's part of what I respect about him. AmFed specializes in buying non-performing numismatic coins and turning them into gold or silver investments that provide liquidity and perform competitively against the market. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. AmericanFederal.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chance Scotch with your first alert forecast. We're going to be tracking temperatures back towards the lower 70s as we head towards the afternoon hours. Also going to be issued a first alert weather day as we're tracking a potential for strong to severe storms from 11 a.m. lasting towards 6 p.m. Most of that will move back off to the east as we head towards the overnight hours. Temperatures going to look to continue to cool into the weekend, tracking temperatures into the mid 40s and upper 30s. We'll continue to look at drier conditions, and next week a little bit of a rebound ahead. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
License number GL250000615.
Hey, it's good to see you.
Home power used to be simple. Now the car plugs in, the scooter plugs in, the space heater plugs in, and your electric panel starts popping.
That sounds bad, but I like popcorn.
Popcorn is great, sparks are not. Call Grasser. We'll upgrade your panel so you can run it all.
Electric and plumbing, the Grasser way.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Mike Ferguson.
Shut this sucker down.
Susie Moore.
I disagree on his assessment of the situation.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
You're not supposed to lie, but you're definitely not supposed to lie when you're under oath.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Okay, so maybe you, like me, thought we were done dealing with the online social media censorship thing. You know, because that was, you know, the Trump administration came in, the social media platforms were caught red-handed. They acknowledged what was happening, especially towards the end of the Biden administration, and not to get into the partisan politics of it. But the point is that there were social media companies and technology companies that were deciding what got pushed and what got throttled. And it's not about whose side you're on. It's on who's deciding what gets to be heard. And I thought we had that all settled. Apparently we don't.
Right.
Yeah. We are now joined by Hiram Sasser with the First Liberty Institute. Apparently we're not done dealing with this, Hiram, and you all have if I'm looking at your all's press releases here, 16 attorneys general demand answers to YouTube's censorship of conservative commentator Steve Deese. So let's lay the groundwork here and the fundamentals on this, because I think you're the lead attorney on this. What is it that YouTube is accused of doing with Steve?
Well, what they did was they have throttled his viewership and his reach. So what'll happen is he'll be in the top 20 podcasts for his category, Christian conservative podcasts. But then, like a YouTube video of that same podcast that just goes viral will only have maybe a couple of thousand views. And so if you look across all the various platforms that his show goes out on, they're all sky high except for YouTube. And that's happened not just to him, but others at The Blaze And it all began with the whole COVID restrictions. You know, anyone who criticized mass shutdowns and, you know, putting on the mask that grandma sewed for you and all that kind of stuff. Anyone who said that was, ridiculous or ineffective or unnecessary, they started throttling them at that point with the encouragement of the United States government. But that throttling has continued on. And it's a black box. There's really no way for the average person to be able to get after YouTube and say, hey, this is what you're doing to me, and I need to hold you accountable, because they're huge. I mean, they can hire every firm in the country. They can do whatever they want. And so it was critical to have the state attorneys general to step up to say, hey, we're going to put the full force of what we have to bear so that we can actually, maybe have a peer-to-peer fight over, YouTube throttling and censoring conservative voices.
Yeah, Billy Crow here. I've got a show on Sunday, and we put stuff out on YouTube, and I didn't really think that this stuff was still happening. And we had a clip that was talked about transgender surgery, and it got 0 views when all of our others were in the thousands. Now, we're small potatoes, and so I wonder, do you have any idea or numbers of, how widespread this is for smaller folks like myself? I mean, you're bringing up a very big, a big personality that's got lots of followers, but it's affecting, it would seem like lots of smaller folks like myself as well.
Yeah, look, the extent of the problem has got to be, it's just, obviously it's not just our clients, right? It's going to be widespread, and it's going to be affecting a ton of people. The problem is that we don't really have, if you're just you or even Steve Deace or the Blaze, that's not big enough to go take on Google. So we had to go out and basically, see if the state AGs would be willing to go. And what I really appreciate is we had 2 state AGs that led the effort, and that was, Iowa Attorney General Brenna Byrd and Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. But then they were joined by 14 other state attorneys general to say, look, we're all in this together. We're going to do an investigation, and we're going to find out what you're doing, what's going on over there with YouTube and Google, and get to the bottom of it. Nobody else could do this but for these state AGs, and the fact that they stepped up to the plate. Because you got to know, Google, they're going to donate money to these AG races. They're going to be able, they have an infinite supply of money. They can buy AGs if they want to. So these 16 stepping up and saying, look, we're going to take you on, that's a big deal, and to their own, political risk.
We're visiting with Hiram Sasser from the First Liberty Institute. Okay, there's the this is wrong and the element of unethical or the element of it's not fair. But let's talk about the role of government. For instance, we're on YouTube. Almost nobody watches us on YouTube, but a whole lot of people watch us on X, and a lot of people watch us on Rumble. There is a marketplace for other areas. What's the role of government in holding these ostensibly private institutions and tech companies accountable for what they do? How much of this should be a backlash in the market versus the government saying, here's how we object to what you're doing?
Well, for many decades, almost a century now, we've had consumer protection laws at the state level. And we all understand what that means, which is that if somebody shows up and says, hey, I'm selling this truck, it's in great working condition, but in reality, the seller knows that the truck is a lemon. Not going to tell you that, but disguises that, hides that, and then sells you a lemon knowing that it's a lemon. You could say, okay, well, yeah, but there's other dealerships in town, but that's not how consumer protection works. If you're committing fraud on the public by selling it like a lemon truck that you know is a lemon but not disclosing that, then you can be held accountable by your state attorney general for, consumer protection fraud, right? Well, it's the same thing here. If Google came out and said, you know what, this is a liberal channel, we don't want any conservative voices, this is our company, we can decide what messages we want, and we only want liberal messages, this is liberal channel, so if you guys don't like it, tough luck. That would be fine. But that's not what they do. They go to Congress, they go testify, they go advertise, they're open to everybody. They're not going to discriminate. We're not going to throttle anybody. We're not going to pick and choose who can speak and who can't. They've made that representation that their truck is not a lemon. They've made that representation to the public that this is a platform you can use and use fairly and freely. And the fact that that's a lie and that's fraud, that's actually consumer fraud, and the state AGs can get after them over that.
Now, is this something just as simple as they could just slightly modify their terms and conditions that nobody ever reads and be able to continue doing what they're doing? Or is this bigger than just that?
Well, look, they could say, hey, look, we're only doing liberal stuff. All right, no conservative voices. We're going to engage in discrimination. We're going to pick and choose who can speak out on our platform and who can't. And they tell that to the public, and they advertise that to the public, and they don't say anything contradictory to that. All right. Well, then maybe they might be able to get away with that. But what they can't get away with is telling everybody, look, this is a fair platform. It's going to be open to everybody. We're not engaging in this throttling. This is all, and put up the smoke screen. They can't get away with that, because that's the same thing as selling you a lemon truck without telling you that it's a lemon.
Okay, and just a quick side note for those here in the St. Louis area, Catherine Hanaway, Attorney General of Missouri, is among the signatories to this letter, just to point that out. Hiram, what's the bigger picture here? Why does this matter so much? I mean, I think so many of us on the right are accustomed to social media throttling and being biased against us. I think we just kind of embed it and bake it into our how we live our lives, knowing that that's against us. Why does this matter so much to go after the tech companies over algorithms and throttling and views and things like that?
Because if we don't do it, they're going to bury us. I mean, you have to stand up. And when you have the laws on the books that are already there, if for them to mean anything at all, they have to be enforced. And you have to have courageous attorneys general like yours in Missouri to be able to stand up and say, we're not going to put up with this kind of discrimination that's being, brought on to our citizens. And look, we just want a fair fight. And here's the thing that the liberal machine knows, which is that if it's a fair fight, they're in trouble. That's why they're always trying to engage in censorship. They're always trying to shut people down, shout people down, deplatform people and everything else. They don't like straight up debate. So the conservative voices just want to be able to say, look, let's just let the messages all get out equally and let the people decide which position they would like, and we'll all live with that.
What's next in the process? Obviously, the letter, the notification's been out. What happens now?
Well, we'll see what Google's response is. I mean, this isn't just the typical demand letter from some organization which they would just throw in the trash. This is not even just from one attorney general. This is a coalition of states that have significant resources to make Google's life difficult. So hopefully what they'll do is they'll actually just fess up and say, look, we're sorry. These are the mistakes that we've made, and we're not going to do them anymore. But we'll have to see how much resistance they put up.
Okay, I have actually posted your all's press release with those details and the link on our social media as well. But Hiram, people want to connect and follow what you do at First Liberty, and I'm very proud that I've got a relationship because I really like your team and you all do such great work. But people want to follow what you're doing. What's the best way to do it and to be in touch? And they may have a religious discrimination case at some point in their lives that they may need your help. So how do they ask?
Yeah, you can go to firstliberty.org. And there'll be a little button there to click on that says you need legal help, and fill that out, and then we can take a look at it and see if it's something we can help you with. We do cases all across the country. We're 10-0 at the U.S. Supreme Court in the past 10 years, and so we're here to fight. But one thing you have to remember is that hey, we may have 10 wins at the Supreme Court. We may be doing cases all over the country, suing the federal government. But you want to take on Google, you better bring an army. And it's just great to see these AGs step up and say, hey, we'll volunteer.
All right, Hiram, great chat with you, and thanks so much. I appreciate that.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, a lot of things in the news, including big news for Boeing and some potentially bad news for Wash U.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll tell you what that's all about in the news dump starting at 8:20.
Don't try to make me stop, no inspiration. You have a soul so dark, it is no more. And all at once depart, no destination.
to fight your war. Stop it right now.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Always be yourself, unless you suck.
On News Talk STL.
Before you blow us all away.
Yo, this is Vic. Vic for Vets is proudly honoring our veterans. Every Wednesday at 11:05, you'll hear about that day's honoree and their incredible service to our country.
Hi, it's Ken. You want to nominate a veteran? Send their name, service information, and story to me, Ken, at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Brought to you by Alamo Military Collectibles, Gemini Wealth Group, and Heroes Care.
Together, let's celebrate the heroes in our community, Vic for Vets, where honor meets gratitude.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint, formulated to outsmart the elements. Rain or shine, sleet or snow, mold or mildew. Our home exterior coatings intelligently designed to stand up to Mother Nature. Call 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
2026, a great time to visit Lit Cigar Lounge. The Lit Cigar Facebook has numerous events from tastings to music. My main reason for going to Lit is always quality cigars, premium whiskeys. Odds are we'll see each other at Lit Cigar Lounge. A few doors down, Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta. Get a pizza baked over coals. Excellent crust and flavor. Or choose one of the many great pasta dishes. You won't leave hungry. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta and Lit Cigar Lounge in the Chesterfield Valley.
This Winter Games Update, brought to you by Corel Roofing and Best Buy Flooring.
Westwood One Sports presents this special update on the 2026 Winter Games. It's been remarkable what the U.S. women's hockey team has done in its first 6 games. 6 wins by a combined 31-1. 5 straight shutouts, 1 game left for Taylor Heise and Team USA.
It's the gold medal game. Everyone's going to show up. And if they don't, they're not meant to be there. And I think when we focus on what we can do, we're so good. And I think focusing on what we've done in the past, obviously I'm remiss to say we've done great and we've had great success. You want to take that confidence and motivation, but you want to move forward. And we're going to do what we need to do on Thursday and then hopefully come out on top.
As usual, the gold medal game with Canada, the matchup in 7 of the 8 since women's hockey debuted. Speaking of debuts, a new sport, ski mountaineering on a snowy day. Switzerland, the women's gold medal. Spain for the men, the snow. Postponed the men's freestyle aerials for the second time. They'll try again tomorrow. With this Winter Games update, John Stashauer, Westwood One Sports.
Sick of gray, gloomy winter hibernation? At Kohl's, you can make spring come early with colorful accents that brighten up your home, like vibrant cookware and decor, cozy bedding and towels. Plus, Kohl's Rewards members save 15% on home purchases. So shop Kohl's Home Refresh and move on to spring. The weather will catch up eventually. Select styles. Offer ends March 1st. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohls.com for details.
Choose Rain-X Rugged XL wiper blades at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Their extra large profile and premium features are made for all driving conditions. Save $16 when you buy a pair of Rain-X Rugged XL wiper blades, plus get 2 times O Rewards points. Our professional parts people will even install your new wiper blades for free at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hey, thank you very much for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Yes, I just want you to know what a breath of fresh air you people are.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Larry Connors here. I begin my morning every day with the Mike Ferguson Morning Show while I'm doing my 10-mile run. Catch my program at 6. Now, back to Mike.
Okay, couple things here. I need to correct something I said a little bit ago. Minor detail, but still, I want to make sure it's correct. Tom Pritzker, who's got caught up in the Epstein stuff and resigned from the Hyatt Hotels, that's not J.B. Pritzker's brother. That's his cousin.
Yeah.
So I said brother, but it's actually his cousin. So I want to make sure I get that to be accurately. And Jerome has just informed me I'm now his enemy.
Mike thinks that Tub Thumping is one of the worst songs of that
era. And that Billy and I mean, we're in agreement. It
You,
was
you
fantastic
guys are
song.
loving this song.
I was jamming to it in 7th and 8th grade at the school dances.
Which is funny because the whole song is about getting drunk in a pub in England, in the UK.
And doing some tub thumping, yeah.
Yeah. We had no clue.
Yeah, but then again, when I wasn't allowed to go to the dances when I was a kid because of my religious household. But they would play like "Smoking in the Boys' Room" by Motley Crue. They'd play that at those things, and that was allowed to be played there.
See, I was in football at the time that song was still being played on the radio regularly. So that was like our theme song: is you get knocked down, but you get back up again. I didn't realize it was somebody stumbling around.
We
drunk
just
at a bar.
watched Rocky movies for that.
Yeah.
All right, here's what's going on. Boeing brings a key part of their business back to St. Louis. Trump administration considering cutting WashU off from some federal tuition dollars, and a lot of them. And the U.S. is chasing Olympic gold in hockey, and they're doing that twice. It's 8:22 right now. Let's go ahead and do one more news dump to you.
The Morning News Dump, brought to you by the Nutrition Stop.
Wake up, America. It all worked out.
They got all the news.
The Morning News Dump.
And away we go. By the way, Billy, thanks for filling in for Susie today.
Yeah, it's actually, I'm usually here when you're not, so it's a nice change of pace today.
I think it's the first time you've actually co-hosted with me.
Yeah.
I think it is, yeah. So Susie, of course, coming back from Washington, D.C., she'll be back tomorrow. Jefferson County Councilman Billy Crow, who you can hear every weekend here on NewsTalkSTL as well. Okay, Boeing is moving its defense, space, and security operations back to St. Louis. So those operations have been headquartered in Arlington, Virginia since 2017. They were in St. Louis before that. Now, in addition to the production of military aircraft and munitions that Boeing does here in the area, Boeing spends around $750 million with hundreds of local contractors each year. Secretary Pete Hegseth visited the company headquarters on Wednesday, and you're talking about 18,000 direct Boeing employees and over 30,000 employees at various contractors who do at least part of their daily work for Boeing as well. So really, you're talking about upwards of 60,000 people who are directly affected by Boeing doubling down on production in St. Louis.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge economic boost for the region. Pretty excited to see that.
Yeah, and of course, going to Arlington, Virginia, actually you would think makes sense because that's right outside Washington, D.C., but they've now decided that they can do that effectively from here.
Someone started draining the swamp.
There you go, starting with Boeing. All right. The Pentagon says Washington University is among the universities that could be cut off from a particular tuition assistance program. Okay, 33 schools are on that list, including WashU, including the majority of Ivy League universities. Okay, so the program is for active duty military personnel. It's both undergraduate and graduate programs. And the proposed cuts target universities that the Trump administration says demonstrate pervasive institutional bias and that the Trump administration says undermines the mission of the military. So basically they're saying if you're going to take our money and work against the administration or against the military or against what we're trying to do, then you just have to do it with somebody else's money.
Yeah, that seems pretty logical, I mean, if you want free speech, then you ought to pay your way.
Or, literally don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Right. I think with the analogy we brought up earlier was our kids living at home, right? I think that was the one we were talking about.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Of course, I'm like you, Billy. I would love to see just less overall federal involvement. Now, when it comes to like military and stuff, like I got no issue with the GI Bill. I got no issue with these programs because that's part of the compensation that we're offering for people to sign up voluntarily for the military. And so in this case here, WashU, if you're not one of the elites in St. Louis, WashU is kind of an embarrassment. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's very high level medical research that's done, but they are so fall off the charts. They're the little fat kid at Thanksgiving who desperately wants to be at the cool kids table, and they're like, "No, I'm Ivy League too. I'm as cool as you." And we're like, "Shut up, you're not."
Wow, way to talk about me at Thanksgiving like that, Mike. Thanks.
Yeah, and so we look at them like, well, that's just like the Ivy League. It's so prestigious. It's really not. It's very expensive, but expensive doesn't mean prestigious. And they are running their. Think about some of the speakers that they brought in. Graduations. Literally, seriously, Fauci.
Yeah.
They're propping up. Protest against. Law enforcement. And so they've got this woke nonsense, but they don't want any accountability or consequences for it.
Well, you talk about like how the left coast would takes like 5 to 6 years for whatever fad's there to get here, and it's the same way. They're even behind there in their leftist thinking.
Just dumb, yeah. All right, the Vatican announced on Tuesday that it will not be accepting President Trump's invitation to join the Board of Peace that he's setting up. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt responding.
I don't think that peace should be partisan or political or controversial. And of course, the administration wants all those who were invited to join the Board of Peace to join.
And the Vatican says that those goals should be reached through the United Nations.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, I'm just going to leave that out there. Okay, this is interesting. According to a new survey, and there were over 8,000 people surveyed, so it's a pretty good-sized survey, only 14% of Americans give up something for Lent. Now, that may strike people as no way, because here in St. Louis, there's a lot of people participating in Lent. I mean, we've got a very, very robust Catholic population in the region, and there are also some other non-Catholic denominations that do Lent as well. So, but only 14% of Americans say they're actually giving up something for Lent. 70% said they're not going to give up anything for Lent. The rest, as of yesterday when Lent started, they just really weren't sure whether they were going to do that or not.
Well, I think for a lot of people that I know that aren't Catholic, Lent is like a New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
It's like the first week, you're like, I got it. And then you're like, nah.
Now, but is it easier because it's 40 days and there's an end date?
Right.
Whereas a New Year's resolution is supposed to be, I'm changing this part of my life, whereas this is like a temporary sacrifice to be a discipline in something.
Agreed, but it's still the complete lack of self-discipline in the individual.
That's true, yeah. And what I was really hoping for is what were the most common things that people would give up, but the survey didn't ask that question.
Yeah.
A lot of people say they give up red meat on Fridays, or somebody says they're not going to smoke, or I'm going to give up social media now, or whatever
sweets
the case is.
or soda,
Yeah, so if you're going to give up something for Lent, I'm curious, what is it that you're giving up? And I'm not here to say good or bad. I'm just kind of curious. So send me a note, let me know what you're giving up for Lent. I've never practiced Lent. That's never been a thing that I grew up with, so I don't. I'm among that 70%. I'm not against it. I just have never been an observer of it. The most likely to give up something for Lent, Gen Z.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I think is really interesting. The least likely to give up something for Lent, Boomers and Gen X.
Yeah.
You guys are like, oh, yeah. And me being a little bit older, I'm like, really? And you guys are like, no, that makes perfect sense.
Well, the youth, I think we've grown up in I wouldn't say hedonistic times, but I think that there is a legitimate, authentic desire to return to some form of tradition, community, have something that gives you a little bit more meaning, whereas a lot of the older generations, at least in my observation, it's sort of like we already went through all that, we grew up, and we're kind of done with it.
It's like Charlie Kirk, right?
Yeah, I was going to say,
which
tracks with the TPUSA thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing you were, which is why I rudely jumped on top because we started. Sorry about that. All right, we are giving you Winter Games updates every day here on the program. In the news, the U.S. men's hockey team, they get forced into overtime against Sweden with 90 seconds left in regulation. The U.S. had a 1-0 lead with 90 seconds left. Sweden pulls the goalie, ties the game at the last minute, and then in overtime, this is what happened.
Now Quinn Hughes, we played 3.5 minutes in overtime. Quinn Hughes shoots, he scores! He scores! Quinn Hughes in overtime wins it, and the United States will move on and face Slovakia in the semis.
All right, final score there, United States 2, Sweden 1. And on the women's side of the Olympics, the U.S. women's team will play Canada today in the gold medal game.
Oh, hey, yeah. Sorry, guys. Hey, listen, we've been talking
caught up by the
hockey, yeah.
USA,
right?
USA,
USA. So listen, we got a lot of things going on here at the station, but don't forget, Tuesday, February 24th, is the State of the Union address. President Trump addresses a joint session of Congress on Tuesday at 8 p.m., and we will be live here at News Talk start to finish. It's Trump, so you know there'll be some great memorable moments, so join us for full coverage. Then listen Wednesday for recaps of the speech all day at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shan Scotch with your first alert forecast. We're going to be tracking temperatures back towards the lower 70s as we head towards the afternoon hours. Also going to be issued a first alert weather day as we're tracking a potential for strong to severe storms from 11 a.m. lasting towards 6 p.m. Most of that will move back off to the east as we head towards the overnight hours. Temperatures going to look to continue to cool into the weekend, tracking temperatures into the mid 40s and upper 30s. We'll continue to look at drier conditions, and next week a little bit of a rebound ahead. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shan Scotch.
Fox News commentary with Guy Benson. Next.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Here's Guy Benson.
Secretary Rubio's speech in Munich to the security conference, it was that good. To me, it was one of the most important speeches from an American political figure that I've seen in a while. And he was able to both channel the America First vision of President Trump that is shared by so many Americans and have them cheering from the other side of the Atlantic, while also getting these European elites to leap to their feet for a standing ovation when he concluded. That is not an easy thing to do. Because of all the tough truths that he told, they were often delivered with almost like a glancing blow, where he made very clear that we cherish and value the alliances on a very deep level.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
Life's legal challenges deserve experienced representation. For over 15 years, Cole Combs Attorney at Law has been serving St. Charles and surrounding counties with comprehensive legal expertise. From tax preparation and estate planning to family law and criminal defense, Cole delivers personalized solutions for your unique situation. You have traffic tickets, need a business formation, real estate matters, one call will handle it all. Cole O. Combs Attorney at Law. Call 636-949-0010, extension 3 today, or visit colecombs-law.com.
Now, the Free Market Minute, brought to you by the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University.
Hi, it's Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show, and I'm here with Dr. Grant Black. And Grant, capitalism, that is increasingly under attack. But why is a free market system so important?
The simple answer, society is much better off because of free markets. Free markets allow individuals and business owners to freely choose what to consume, how to save, where to live and do business, what to produce, and how to protect our valuable resources, and so much more. And this can all happen without requiring heavy government interference. In a nutshell, free markets empower people to live their lives the way they choose. And this makes all our lives better.
The John W. Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University fosters and examines market-oriented approaches to economic and social issues. To learn more, visit hammondinstitute.org.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
NewsTalkSTL.
Let's get back to all this madcap mayhem with Mike Ferguson in the morning. But don't forget, stick around for Jones and Arps every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Just so you know, I think we're the only morning show that's going to have both Rob Zombie and Steel Panther for bump music.
and then on Flashback Fridays, I mean, we're probably the only ones playing Motorhead. We're the only ones playing Devo.
We have had some crazy requests that have been a lot of fun. And actually, we haven't even mentioned Flashback Friday yet, but we still need everybody's request for this week.
Yeah, in honor of Black History Month, I would like to get your favorite black artists of the 80s. So it could be any rock, any pop, any rap. Well, not any rap because Mike's not a rap guy, but the good stuff. So go ahead and send that to me, Jerome at NewsTalkSTL.
You know, you're talking about like I'm a country music guy more than anything, and I was like, oh, I want to send in a Charlie Pride request. And I was like, talking about how
Why
old,
not?
but it's 80s music.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh my God, Charlie Pride was like the
He
70s.
was 70s because I actually grew up listening to a lot of people are surprised. I'm the metal guy. I'm like the rock and roll talk shows. I grew up as a kid listening to country music.
Sure.
And Charlie Pride was part of what we listened to. But yeah, you're right. That was 70s.
70s, yeah.
He might have had something in the 80s, but if it was, it would have been really, really early. But I think he was mostly 70s.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good blues out there as well.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
all again.
Yeah. Robert Cray. And
Mhm.
I mean, B.B. King had some hits in the 80s. And yeah, there's a lot of great stuff. All right. Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert is on a tangent. He has bought into his own hype. And to be fair, he was really big for a while.
Mhm.
You know, I think he was probably more organically popular when he was on Comedy Central than on his show on CBS right now. Of course, CBS is getting rid of him.
Right.
You know, he's blaming like, I stood up to the man and look what's happening. I'm a martyr. Well, no, they're losing like $30 million a year on your show, dude.
Right.
I mean, it's just, you know, you're not competing. Greg Gutfeld's eating your lunch.
Yeah, I think one of the things we were talking about earlier is like he's a guy that, you know, he had a character. He was a caricature on The Daily Show.
And it was funny.
It was. And then all of a sudden, like, he believed that's him or something, or overexposure, and he just, like, took it hook, line, and sinker. And it's like, sorry, you're not actually, like, a political journalist. You're a comedian. Stay in your lane. But he can't seem to do that.
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely hilarious and amazing with some of the Bill O'Reilly trolling that he used to do.
Yes, it was huge.
And it was funny, and it was witty, and it was well thought out. This is just sad to watch what he does with the whole Trump
Right.
stuff
And
now.
so what's going on now is obviously there are two big primary races for the U.S. Senate in Texas this year. This is one of the Senate seats up in the midterms. The Democrats have Jasmine Crockett. Then they have this state representative by the name of James Tallarico. And basically, I think the Democrats in Texas are looking at that race and going, we cannot have Jasmine Crockett embarrass the crap out of not just the Texas Democrats, but all Democrats. And Republicans are rooting for Jasmine Crockett like nobody's business, just like, and I'm not making this up, Republicans around the country are rooting for Cori Bush.
Mm-hmm.
Cori Bush is great for Republican fundraising because she is so insane.
Yeah.
So we're going to find out whether the Democrats in St. Louis continue to show a little bit of sanity by keeping her out of office, which I think they will. I don't think they're going to go back to that level. But the Republicans also have a contested primary there as well. Yet Cornyn and Paxton in there. That's high dollar slugfest. And the prevailing wisdom is if Crockett wins,
it's over.
Republicans waltz.
Yeah.
If this other guy wins, well, there are some issues with Cornyn in the Republican Party. There was some, Paxton is generally popular with I think a lot of Republicans, but it's not a layup for the Republicans in this case. So Stephen Colbert is really on this Tallarico bandwagon, and he wants to have him on the show this week. Well, CBS says you can only do that if you're going to have the other candidates. And they're citing the Trump administration saying, well, we're going to enforce the equal time rule, which has been something that's been on the dustbin for years. I mean, openly saying we're not going to enforce that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Do what your audience wants to do. There are other outlets people can find in. But now the Trump administration basically getting really tired of 99% negative coverage. They said, hey, we got this rule. We're going to dust it off and hit back.
Right.
Now, I got a few worries about unintended consequences with that. But Stephen Colbert basically is trying to make the argument that the Trump administration's afraid of me. They're afraid of this. That's why they won't let us do this interview on the air. Well, nobody ever said you couldn't do the interview on the air. So here's when this James Tallarico comes onto his set Monday, Tuesday. It was this week. Here's how that conversation started.
Now, here's the thing. I don't usually say this to a guest, but if people are watching this right now, it's because they found us online on YouTube. I did an act of the show that's on tonight explaining why. It's not the first time you've caused some drama. FCC opening probe into The View after appearance by Tallarico. Do you mean to cause trouble?
I think that Donald Trump is worried that we're about to flip Texas.
Okay, so Brandon Carr, FCC commissioner, was asked about this as well. Here was his answer.
This was Democrat on Democrat violence. CBS was very clear that Colbert
could run the interview that he wanted with that political candidate. They just said you may have to comply with equal time.
In other words, you may have to have Jasmine Crockett on. You may have to have the in time the Republicans on. And so it's really easy to go, well, yeah, that's what you should do. Well, what you should do and what the government should make you do, that's a separate question on this. But the funny part is they're playing victim, Billy.
Yeah.
They're afraid of us. They're afraid we're going to flip Texas. I'd be surprised if they do. But, that's why they're trying to couch this as they're trying to shut us down. And Tallarico raised like $2 million off of that claim in the last 72 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great campaign move for him. And
Yeah.
again, I think YouTube was a bigger platform than CBS, so they got that going for him.
Mm-hmm.
But, I see this as CBS being like, if you're at Thanksgiving dinner and you're like, all right, I don't need a lot of drama right now, so I'm not going to have the racist uncle tell the prayer at Thanksgiving, right? Yeah. It's not against, you can say what you want, but we're going to put some rules in place so you don't create the drama for me. Because, again, Colbert's losing them money. He's going out the door. Why? I just see them as going like, we don't need your drama. Yeah. Do this because we told you to because we're your boss. Or don't. We don't care because we don't want you anymore.
I mean, here's the other part is these late night shows, why are you getting into politics? You follow the news. There's been all sorts of coverage.
Mm-hmm.
You're all losing your ratings. Now granted, Colbert or Gutfeld is political.
Right.
But they also, man, those guys, they're lucky. I mean, they can do what they do because they're on cable.
Right.
I mean, I won't even get into what Tyra said the other day.
Right.
On one of their, they were talking about let's just say a left-wing feminist activist who would not be as appealing visually.
Right.
And he made a comment, look it up for yourself. And I can't say it, but it was funny as hell. It was really funny. But in this case here, they all want to be like, we're the martyrs being thrown under the bus by the man. I'm like, what do you mean you're resisting? You're part of CBS. You are the establishment.
Right. That's nothing more establishment than like the original 3 broadcasting companies. And again, you're a comedian. Like, okay, even if you want to dabble into politics, don't play the martyr card. Like that automatically makes you not funny.
And the thing is that, I would imagine that his conversations with Jasmine Crockett, and again, if he said, okay, well, I'm going to book her for later this week or make her the offer, and CBS probably would have said, well, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. But he probably would have had to agree to have Cornyn and or Paxton on as well. But again, that's CBS saying this is our interpretation and we are worried about what the federal government's going to do.
Sure.
So you've got to do this, but it was CBS giving the directive. But to be fair, they were responding to the Trump administration, taking swings at the shows and the networks he doesn't like, and they are investigating The View.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they should. I think we all know what The View is. They are 99.99999%, complete left wing, and the only ones who come on the show who aren't left wing are people on the right who are mad at other people on the right. That's all that they do. We know what we're getting. I don't think the federal government needs to be coming in and trying to micromanage content.
Yeah, in the days of the podcasts and the YouTuber, I mean, we were talking about YouTube shadow banning things, but again, like you've got other platforms even other than that, Rumble, Spotify, Apple. I mean, you got Joe Rogan, who. I mean, good
bigger
grief.
Than all of them.
Bigger than all of them,
yeah.
Right? And he can say whatever he wants, whenever he wants. So why do we need these regulations? And again, I understand FCC gives out these licenses.
Yeah.
So, okay, if the government's in charge, we got to keep it even, but just don't give out the licenses.
But here's the thing is that you also, you do respect that these are the public airwaves, and we respect that here because we're supposed to be, but you also respond to what your market is as well. And there are guidelines that make sense. There really are, because these are the public airways. I say that even though I've got a very, very, very long and wide and mean libertarian streak in me, as everybody knows, but the rules are different for cable. So I've heard people say, well, what about Fox News? Fox News isn't on the air.
Right.
They're streaming. They're on cable. They're not literally on the air. So it's Fox News could air whatever they want, and the FCC can't do anything about it. Now they choose to adhere to, stronger standards, as, does some others. But like, for instance, we've heard of times where they're covering a live event and somebody drops an F-bomb or whatever the case is, and it will go through live. It's like, well, they're going to get in trouble. No, they're not.
Right.
Because they're cable.
Yep.
FCC, we have a dump button right here. I mean, if somebody suddenly, drops one of those things, there's a button that we can catch that before it goes over the air. And we're very careful about that because we care about the quality of what we put on the air.
Right.
So there are standards that we have ourselves, which are higher than what the government has for us, because that's the right way to do things. But in this case here, Colbert, once again, like so many of these narcissists, is that it's all about him. And if I hear something I don't like, then clearly they're afraid of me, or I'm having such a massive impact. You're not. You're hemorrhaging viewers and dollars.
Yep.
You know, you're just not that important. But congratulations on getting back in the news.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you just stuck to the comedy element, this wouldn't even be a problem, I think. This is because you're trying to have the best of both worlds, and you're not going to get, your cake and eat it too. But what you can do is you can request 80s bump music for Flashback Friday. As I mentioned earlier today, this is going to be the last call for 80s bump music for Jerome at NewsTalkSTL, but send us your favorite black musicians, any genre of the 80s.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Someone in that control room is out of control.
On NewsTalk-STL.
1 in 4 women will have an abortion before the age of 45 in this country. That's the tragedy we must work to stop. Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show here, and that is why Reach Reproductive Health is here, to empower parents to save the lives of innocent children and to see these families come to Christ. And you can be a part of saving and changing lives. So pray and visit outreachforlife.org to learn more, volunteer, and donate. That's outreachforlife.org.
Missouri's premier boat show returns in 2026 as the St. Louis Boat and Fishing Show comes to America's Center the weekend of February 20th through the 22nd. See world-class fishermen working the latest new lures in the hog trough and see how the live fish react. Ride the mechanical bull, see a live stingray encounter. Plus, stop by the STL Power Sports booth and register to win a new e-bike valued at $3,000. The St. Louis Boat and Fishing Show, America's Center, February 20th through the 22nd.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote quality Christ-centered K-12 education nationwide.
Hi, this is Chris Stegall with the Herzog Foundation. We offer a wide variety of resources relevant to today's families, including a free online publication called The Lion. The lion is one of God's most majestic creatures, symbolizing strength and courage. Named for its attributes, the Lion publication carries articles covering a wide range of topics facing American families and culture, especially related to the education of children. The Lion can be found online at readlion.com. That's READ lion.com.
Sign up for The Lion at readlion.com and find dozens of must-read articles published every day. Visit readlion.com and subscribe for the weekly and daily digests so you never miss an article. Readlion.com. That's readlion.com.
The Vic Borselli Show.
Ken, yeah, Vic, what if everyone got an AI twin brother or sister overnight? That'd be scary. How scary would that be? Apparently the future has arrived. We'll talk to Martin Maurer about that Thursday at 10:41.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL.
All right, Billy Crow in for Susie Moore today. So, man, thanks for being here. Let's go and give a quick shout out. You got the Jeffco Patriot Radio coming up.
Yep.
Give me a preview of what's happening this weekend.
Yeah, so this weekend, the CASA, I don't know if you know what that is. It's Court-Appointed Special Advocates. They help care for foster kids in the foster system. They're like a middleman kind of between like foster families and the guardian ad litem, and they really stick with the kid. It's a really great program. My wife's on the board there. They've got a gala coming up next month, and so we're promoting that. So my wife's coming on to talk about the gala, and we've got Judge Shannon Doherty, who she's very big into CASA. When she her docket used to be like family stuff where she would deal with like assigning CASAs, because CASAs are court appointed. They're not just You can't just be some random volunteer. You got to go through training and be appointed by a judge.
Vetted.
Yep. So we're going to be talking all about that program this weekend, which is a nice change. We actually won't be talking about data centers for the first time in like a month, so that's exciting.
Yeah, and the foster system, last time I did a media thing on this back when I used to have my TV show, there were something like, I don't know, 10, 12,000 children in the foster system. In Missouri alone,
right?
They have far more kids in the foster system than they have people to advocate for them and foster homes as well. So that's something to look into as well, because it is not an easy thing to do and to be involved in, but there's a need for it.
It's not, and I've been immersed in the statistics, even though I'm not on the board, right? My wife always says her spiel is like, at any given time, there is anywhere from 500 to 1,000 foster care kids in Jefferson County. So I average about 700 at any given time, right? There's only 90 CASAs. So, and they try to make sure one CASA worker per child, so that's very individualized. And so, because the guardian ad litems, they've got all these kids. Foster parents usually have more than one, and so everybody gets very individualized. And so, I mean, obviously money is helpful, but just the volunteers to get involved in these people's lives, we need a lot more.
And so that'll be on the air this weekend, and then you all put the shows out. You can see them on Rumble.
They're on
YouTube,
Rumble,
those,
Spotify, YouTube, all
Okay,
that stuff.
but now mentioning the data centers, a few hours ago, we actually talked to Festus City Councilman Mike Cook.
Yes.
Because we talked about this, Jerome, on the news. I think it was last week. I had it in the news dump that there was a petition in Festus. People, it was like 1,400 signatures. It was a lot. And they were like, put this thing on the ballot. We don't want a data center in Festus. Well, there is no actual proposal for a data center in Festus, but the city is setting up to make room for one.
Right.
And they actually annexed land that wasn't even in Festus, but now it is in Festus. And so if you want to hear that discussion with Mike, and I thought he was pretty objective, because he didn't, when you asked him, like, are you for it or against it? And his answer was, well, let's see what the plan looks like.
Right.
Which is what you should be doing. Yeah. But they're saying that these things are going to go somewhere. There is an economic benefit to them if you do it right. And that's one thing I noticed that Mike kept saying is if you do it right.
Yes.
As opposed to black and white. Yes, they're good. No, they're bad. He was essentially saying devil's in the details. If you're going to do it, you need to do it right. And then we got into the protections of, sound and electricity and all that kind of stuff as well. And that's going to be up on our podcast here in probably 1 hour, something like that, Jerome.
Yeah.
And so that'll be up. So I would encourage everybody to check that out, because it's the same discussion that's happening all over the region on both sides of the river.
Yep. Yeah, that's just the hottest topic, or hottest one right now, because there is, the land was annexed. It was zoned into industrial. They're working on, or they put in some regulations in place. So all things look like, hey, they're preparing for something soon.
Yeah, and the thing is, and I don't know, of course, we don't have a proposal, so we don't know. Data centers don't require as many employees as, like, if you have, let's say, a warehouse-sized building, and it's a warehouse. I mean, you could have, 3 shifts. You could have hundreds of employees. Data center, you would not need as many employees for that, but they're going to be kind of high-techy jobs.
Well, that is very true, but there's another side of this, and we were talking about Boeing, right? The Boeing employees versus the people that come in and maintain and build the buildings. The statistics I've heard that these technology happens so fast that these things need to be retooled every 3 to 5 years, and the amount of work 2 or 3 of these could have to the region would replace all of the man hours that the trades lost when all of the car manufacturers left town. And so as far as like the auxiliary, the ancillary workers that come in and are constantly maintaining and working on it, there's a huge portion of man hours involved in that as well.
Yeah, so the bottom line is more and more and more goes into the cloud.
Yes.
And guess where the cloud processes things?
On the ground.
Data centers on the ground. And we joke about if somebody's in opposition to this, what are they going to do? They're going to grab their phone, they're going to go on their laptop, and they're going to look up why they don't like it or look up information to back up their argument. That's all going through a data center.
Yeah.
So, and I agree that something that's new can be scary.
Yeah.
And if you want to make sure that you do it right, and caution is a good thing to have. But when you look at these new technologies, you also want to say, what are the opportunities? Which is why it's sometimes hard to have a conversation when somebody says, this is new, it is bad, I've heard bad things, and it's going to be really hard to talk them down from that position. But to be fair, everybody who showed up at that city council meeting a couple weeks ago with their petition. Well, that's where you're supposed to have those conversations.
Right.
As opposed to just sending off memes on social media.
You know, one of the things I noticed, and somebody mentioned it, I think our show made a Facebook post about it, is the same leftist groups that made you get really scared over a virus and make you say you have to take this vaccine are the same ones that say to be scared of a giant hard drive.
Right.
So there's a grain of salt there too, right? They're just looking for the next thing to hype, maybe, but research, look into it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, do I support the data center going into Festus? I don't know. I haven't seen the details yet.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's a good deal. Maybe it's not. You know, maybe these centers need to look at more rural areas. I don't know, but let's see what's on the table and what the impact would actually be before we go screeching one way or the other.
That's right.
I mean, I don't think that's too much to ask, is it?
Well, and I think part of the conversation, though, is also not just the immediate potential economic and or other impacts in the real world, but I guess what data centers represent, where we are with technology's integration into a society. I think that it's advancing in a way that not a lot of people are really prepared for or fully understand the implications of, and that's kind of maybe where some of the technological phobia, technophobia is coming from.
Sure, yeah. No, I definitely think it's a Manhattan project for our times, and do we want it happening here, or do we want to have it in communist China? That's the question.
That's another thing, and I think most people go, no, we don't want this to happen in China. We don't want this to happen in a communist country. We need to happen here, just not in my backyard.
That's right.
You know, put it somewhere else. We got all kinds of land somewhere else. Okay, so you want us to take farmland out of use?
Put it in somebody else's backyard.
Right, put it, and everybody who says not in my backyard, they are essentially saying in somebody else's backyard.
Yep.
You know, and that's where we're at. So let's have an honest discussion. But for those who are saying we're going to go have a talk to our elected officials about it, well, good for you.
Yeah.
I got no issue with that. Just when you do that, make sure that you're listening as well.
Remember those magical moments in Mom's kitchen? The heavenly aroma of